Middle Relief. Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now, let's go to the bullpen. Here's Mario Jerez and Matt Musso.
What's up, people? Welcome in to another edition of Middle Relief. It is a Wednesday show. Mario Jerez alongside Matt Musso, Casey Gaines on the audio board, and Danny Cardenas getting us on YouTube. Big show today. The NBA Finals are underway. We are 59 days away from LSU football opening the season, and LSU baseball has finally hired a new pitching coach. Lots to discuss today. Musso, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mario. Doing pretty good. Yet Jason Kelly on staff now with Jay Johnson, leaving just two remaining staff positions to be filled for LSU baseball. We can get into all of that. Game one of the NBA Finals was last night. Chris Paul looked like a man on a mission. 32 points. Showed really no nerves, especially after a slow start in his first finals game. Giannis looked really good last night as well. Looked pretty darn healthy. So got a lot to get into.
Yeah, two really happy fan bases. The Suns are in their first finals since 1993. The Bucks are there for the first time since 1974. Somebody's going to win their first title in a really, really long time. And I agree with you. Entertaining game last night. 118-105 victory for the Phoenix Suns. But as you know, you picked the Suns to win the series. I picked the Bucks to win the series. I'm still riding with Milwaukee, but they're going to have to step it up for game two. And
I was just going to say great atmosphere in Phoenix last night, too. The crowd was on fire.
It was awesome. You could tell how much they were starving to be there, to finally be in the finals. And I agree with your point about Chris Paul. Cool as a cucumber last night, especially in that third quarter. And we'll talk a lot of hoops throughout the show today. At 12:30, we're going to talk to Christian Clark of NOLA.com. He covers the Pelicans for NOLA.com, and the Pelicans are in the news today. We'll get a little bit into that in a little while, and we'll also ask him about the latest when it comes to the Pelicans head coaching search, because they still have to hire a head coach as we are 19 days away from the NBA draft. Might want to get a move on there, David Griffin. Also at 1:15, we will talk to Wilson Alexander, the advocate, talk a little bit of LSU baseball with him and a little bit of LSU football as well. As previously mentioned, we are now 59 days away from LSU and UCLA. And at 2 o'clock, Jeremy Hill will not be here today. He is out of town. However, fear not, Taylor Sharp of Talk 107.3 will be here at 2 p.m. to co-host with me. So looking forward to having Taylor on. But we had to lead with the big news of the day. LSU baseball will hire Jason Kelly as its pitching coach. This was first reported by Kendall Rodgers. No surprise there. He's basically the Adrian Wojnarowski, Ian Rappaport of college baseball. This guy is always first with the news. This is true again, as Kelly comes to LSU after spending the last 3 seasons at Arizona State. He was the 2018 D1 Baseball Assistant of the Year with the Sun Devils. And this is an interesting story of how we got here, Musso, because new head coach at Arizona State, Willie Bloomquist, fired Kelly as soon as he asked to interview for the LSU job, even before he took the interview with Jay Johnson. He was fired on Friday, interviewed on Saturday, and then hired on Monday. And it's interesting because Kelly was going to be the only coach that was going to be retained on Willie Bloomquist's brand new staff in his first year at Arizona State, but he fires him after just taking the interview with LSU. And I kind of get it from his point of view, but it's also a big risk. If Kelly's able to come to LSU and have success, not going to make Bloomquist look very good.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, the guy he hires has success. It could be a win-win for each. But interesting situation. You don't necessarily see that happen a majority of the time, where a guy's going to be retained and then goes through all the proper protocols to take an interview, and is let go. But I mean, that just lets you know there's probably a little bit something else going on behind the scenes there, maybe. And maybe it wasn't Willie's choice to retain Jason Kelly. And I mean, you know, sometimes guys want their own staff. Sometimes maybe he did want to retain him and thought he was all in and needed him to be all in, and he wasn't. So when he asked to take the interview, that could be how that happened. However it happened, and Jason Kelly's now in Baton Rouge. So I think there's a few ways to look at this. I think, again, there's pros and there's cons to the hire. On the surface, I think it looks really good, though. I think the pros outweigh the cons early. Him being an assistant of the year, that is a tremendous honor, and that is something that should not be taken lightly at all. And it was recent, and it was in a year where his team went to Omaha. So there's another pro right there. This is a guy with Omaha experience. That's what you want when you're going to bring somebody in at LSU, because, again, ultimately, as we all know, that is the goal here in Baton Rouge, is to always end up in Omaha at the end of June. So big two pros there. He's been an assistant of the year, and he's got Omaha experience. Another interesting thing is at Cal Poly and at Washington, he had a habit of his teams really setting ERA records, right? So at Cal Poly, one of his staffs set the lowest team ERA in program history in their time at D1, at Division I. I think at that point they had been there for 14 years, and it was the lowest they'd ever had. At Washington, in one of his seasons, they set the lowest team ERA since the 80s at Washington. So that's another pro. And then you look at his time at Arizona State, and it's not a very big sample size because he only had one full season, and that was this past year, right? 2020, they got off to a really nice start. They had an ERA in the threes as a team, and then the season gets shut down, of course. You come back, and you have your full season this year, and they just get a rash of injury. The injury bug bit them. I mean, look, LSU had that happen to them a couple of years ago. Mississippi State had it happen to them a couple of years ago. It just, Florida had it happen to them a couple of years. It happens. And it happened to them. And they lose their top three starters and their closer all early in the season. The team ERA blooms, but they still win 11 of 16 series. They still finish above 500 in the Pac-12. They still make the NCAA tournament, and they still tossed 4 shutouts. So there is something to be said there for his ability to develop guys. I mean, if you lose your top 3 and you can still end up with those numbers despite the team batting average against, despite the team ERA, he's doing something right there in development, and that's something that Jay Johnson spoke about in statements to The Advocate, to USA Today, and Glenn Gilbo over in Lafayette. He likes his ability to call pitches. He likes his ability to develop guys and current guys on LSU staff, whether it be their arm strength or their pitch ability. It's somebody, Jason Kelly, who Jay Johnson's very familiar with. So there's another pro. They faced off plenty of times, whether it be Kelly at Washington or Kelly at Arizona State. In fact, Jason Kelly coached pitching staff, was the last pitching staff to shut out a Jay Johnson offense. And that came in 2018 when he was at Washington in that great season that they had. So there's plenty of pros. I think the one con that people will point to the most is kind of the same con people pointed to when Jay Johnson was hired. It's another guy, West Coast lifer, right? And I think, I know when we talked about it, we said, okay, he's going to come in and hire guys on his staff now with ties to the South and Southeast. And I still think that's possible with the 2 remaining positions that they have available. But it's not the be all end all. I don't think. I mean, that's a con. It's not something I'm jacked about, but I think he can be a really good pitching coach at LSU.
Yeah, you mentioned the familiarity with Jay Johnson, which is a good thing. And I really think we should note the work he did at Washington, Musso, because when you put it into context, he had a lot of success there with a program that did not have success. Very similar to Jay Johnson in his time in the Pac-12. But while he was at Washington, while Kelly was, he helped the Huskies reach the College World Series for the first time ever in program history that year when he won Assistant of the Year, which is pretty much his crowning achievement up to this point. And Washington made the NCAA tournament during Kelly's tenure, the same amount the program made it in the 13 seasons prior to his arrival. And he did a lot of good individual work with the guys at Washington as well. He mentored 15 pitchers that were selected in the MLB draft since 2013. 7 of those pitchers were selected in the top 15 rounds. So the resume is there, and you got to note his time at Washington for what he did.
And it's a pretty extensive resume for his age, right? I mean, he's only 41 years old, and he's been at 3 schools and had good tenures at all those schools. Again, really minus Arizona State. The sample size isn't very big there, but it's an extensive resume where he served as a pitching coach, an associate head coach, a recruiting coordinator. He served in all those different roles, so he's got a lot of different experiences being on a staff. So, I mean, and he shows the ability to be able to move up. I mean, it's the pros outweigh the cons for me when it comes to this hire. We haven't seen him do it yet, but until you do that, I mean, for right now, it looks like a very good hire.
Jay Johnson has his pitching coordinator. He needs his pitching coach. He now needs to round out the rest of his coaching staff. What do you think is kind of the next steps for LSU and Jay Johnson here?
So I would think next they'd probably want to get the recruiting coordinator in there. But look, the draft starts Sunday. the first round of the draft Sunday. It'll go through Tuesday. I wouldn't expect anything by then. I mean, maybe. But, I mean, they've interviewed a couple guys. Chad Kaye is somebody who was at Texas A&M, got let go with that staff. That has been long rumored for this job at LSU. And Dan Fitzgerald, he's the recruiting coordinator at Dallas Baptist, is somebody I know that they've had interest in. So, I mean, those are really some of the mainstream names to watch right now. I am curious. We can ask Wilson about this later on. If there's any, well, let me say it this way. I do believe the recruiting coordinator will have ties to the Southeastern Conference or at least the South.
You would think. Mm-hmm.
Because it's what Jay Johnson mentioned in his opening press conference, right? You know, wants a more of a little national type recruiting. He can recruit the West still. He's got plenty of ties out there. And you get somebody down here to recruit the states that LSU normally does, and you can set yourself up for success and a bigger brand. So I do expect that to happen. What is interesting, in reading some articles earlier today, I know Glenn Gilbo mentioned that a former coach at Arizona might be involved in the running for volunteer assistant. That's Mark Wanaka. So that would be interesting to see as well. I mean, you've seen guys come from Arizona players like Jacob Berry, but there had never really been too much talk about staff. So, and that's a guy who's been with Jay Johnson for a very long time. We could talk to Wilson about that possibility a little bit later on as well. So, I mean, I guess those are really the names to watch. But I mean, look, they took a week to hire the pitching coach. So what Jay Johnson said in his opening press conference has stayed true, right? I'm not going to sacrifice time for the hire, right? I'm going to take my time and make the right hire. And he feels Kelly's the right hire there. And it feels a lot like due diligence. So we'll see if how much longer it takes there. I mean, you're going to have some guys drafted, and that's another thing we can talk about with Wilson is how much roster influx they expect with the draft right now coming up. And, I mean, you know, the guys who are going to go are going to go. The guys who are going to come are going to come. I mean, that's kind of really set in stone. You haven't had anybody defect out of the recruiting class still. So you think those guys are in. So recruiting coordinator might not be as much of a pressing need at this time. But I do think that is the next hire that they make, unless he does get his, volunteer coach from Arizona just to follow him to LSU.
Yeah, regardless of if that happens or not, I think all the attrition and all the people following Jay Johnson or potentially following him to LSU is a really good sign. Obviously, this is somebody who's really respected in the college baseball community, and we'll see if he can carry over the success over to LSU. But what we do know is that Jason Kelly will be the Tigers' next pitching coach. We'll continue to talk about that throughout the show. Again, Wilson Alexander from The Advocate will be here at 1:15, about 60 minutes from now. Coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit of college football and some interesting news concerning name, image, and likeness. Once again, all that and more coming up here on Middle Relief with Mario Jerez and Matt Musso, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
50 years ago on Easter Sunday, Breck's Baton Rouge Zoo proudly opened our doors, and we've been hopping ever since. 5 decades of connecting people with animals, teaching our community about the problems facing wildlife and how we can help, and working with zoos across the world to protect endangered species. Today, our future is taking flight by stretching the possibilities of what your zoo can become, while we keep it fun and affordable for everyone. Thanks for coming along.
Starting in 1974, Central Plumbing has served Baton Rouge and surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Through these tough and trying times, we want you to remember that the Payne family is here to continue to support and serve you. As a multi-generational business, there is no job that is too big or too small. Residential, commercial, industrial, hospitality, we're here for anything you need. 24/7, 365. Give us a call, 225-925-8552.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Middle Relief, and after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are...
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. LSU has a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about Jason Kelly and Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap it. Join us Wednesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back into Middle Relief. Mario Jerez alongside Matt Musso once again. Time to talk a little bit of name, image, and likeness, and a significant story, in my opinion, coming out of Miami. So Dan Lambert, big businessman in the Miami area. He owns a chain of local gyms or MMA gyms where you could fight, work out, all that good stuff. And he's a huge Miami football fan. I guess you can call him a booster, even before this era of NIL. And he has now offered each scholarship player on Miami $500 a month to advertise his gyms on social media. If you add that up, Musso, that's $540,000 a year, assuming there's about 90 players on scholarship. And the name of this movement, or this corporation, whatever you will, is called Bring Back the U. And this man has been very, very candid about the fact that his focus is to put money in the pockets of Miami football players. And he wants to rally support from local businesses and ultimately get players hired as spokesmen and make them even more money. And he plans to host fundraising events, going to donate the proceeds to any local business. And he's in touch with compliance. He's in touch with lawyers. He is adhering to every single rule and regulation that he has to do this. But he's going to try to do this. He's going to try to create a direct, concrete incentive for football players to come play at Miami. And obviously Miami, as a program right now, a little bit down, had a little bit of juice with Mark Richt towards the end a couple seasons ago, but that died really fast. And Miami is one of these schools that are trying to get back, right? And this seems to be an avenue for them to try to get back, at least according to this businessman. But this is really interesting to me, Musso, because again, the law support what he's trying to do, and this is something that could be very significant for the Miami program.
I love this. I mean, I don't really think that should come as any surprise to anybody. If you've listened to any of our shows last week about NIL, I love this. I love this for a lot of different reasons. Number one is, what was one thing we talked about a lot, Mario, was jealousy potential in the locker room or whatnot. And this is the second time Miami's come up in this in finding a way to maybe even get around that, right? I mean, De'Aaron King wants to organize something similar to this where, it's an entire autograph signing with the whole team or something like that, and they can split the revenue up evenly. I love that Dan Lambert's doing that. You're giving every single player on that team an opportunity to make some type of profit off their name, image, and likeness while also building his business and, as he hopes, building the Miami football program back up. This rule gives you that opportunity to do that. I like that. I really have no problem at all with what he's doing. I know some people look at it as an advantage, and I know we'll get into that, but every school in the Power 5 has the opportunity to have this. Every school in the Power 5 has a Dan Lambert. Every single one. Even Kansas. They've got their biggest booster too. So, every school has the opportunity to do this. I think this is something very Miami, which is another reason I like it. Bring back the U. This has a very, 1980s the U vibe to it. So I like that part about it. And I think it's a great opportunity for every player, every scholarship player on the Miami roster.
Yeah, it's a great thought, but every school is going to have to catch up and do something similar to this because, as you said, every school, every region has somebody like this, but it's orchestrated. This is a program, this is a person, Dan Lambert, that was clearly very ready for this and is clearly very ready to adapt to this new climate of college football, and that's the way competition is going to be creative. Every school is going to have some kind of incentive like this in a perfect world.
And see, that's another reason I like it a lot. Mm-hmm. He was ready. He had a plan. He adapted. He's working with compliance. It's brought it all above board. Isn't it better now that this guy, Dan Lambert, who probably has more money than God, obviously, can sit down now with compliance at Miami, go through the set rules for this, and make this happen? It doesn't have to be done in the dark alleys anymore. It doesn't have to be done secretly under the table. It's all right there. There's a set of rules. He can follow them along with the university and make this happen. That sounds like goal achieved to me. I don't see an issue with that side of it at all.
I don't see a concrete issue right now, but some part of this is screaming too good to be true. You can't tell me that certain programs aren't going to have advantages. I think of Texas right away with the oil money or whatever. I think of a big market like USC, who's in a similar position, trying to get back. I can't really tell you right now, but I feel like somehow, some way, there's going to be some imbalance there. And Cortland Jacobs says as much in the chat, saying you're not going to like it when LSU boosters fail to be able to match it. I don't know if specifically someone won't be able to match it, but I just feel like certain schools are going to have an advantage here.
I think they're going to have different advantages, though. That's the thing, right? So, okay, yeah, maybe there's an LSU booster that can't match whatever. That's fine. But LSU has knocked this so far out of the park early on where they've set up their team, their players in all sports, not just football, to have built-in advantages that other schools don't have right off the bat, like being able to use facilities, being able to use campus, being able to use the marks. We went through that last week. There's a number of schools, the University of Texas included, who aren't allowing campus use, facility use, or the marks use. No other school marketed this like LSU. So that's what I mean. You have teams that'll have different advantages. I fail to believe that this is going to skew the playing field so far in one program's advantage. That's not already the case, right? I mean, come on. How many teams have, I don't have it right in front of me, but the stat's been thrown out. There's been 10 different teams that have made the playoffs so far in that era. And how many times has it been Alabama? How many times has it been Clemson, Oklahoma, Ohio State, right? LSU's made one. Washington made one. Michigan State made one. Other than that, it's been the rest of the same. So there's already those advantages. This could also level that playing field out by giving schools different advantages, whether it be their creative team, whether it be creative team mixed with boosters, whether it be their boosters and the oil money in Texas, or the celebrities out in LA. It's tough to sit here right now on day 5?
Yeah.
Of name, image, and likeness and say that it gives one team more of an advantage than others. Over time, maybe that plays out, but there's already teams that have more of an advantage in college sports right now.
The teams that
and
will
it's not just exclusive to football.
Yeah, and the teams that will have the advantage in the here and now are the ones with the best compliance department, the ones in certain cases like LSU, maybe the ones with the best visual communications and digital media, because you've seen the impact that has had. You saw Olivia Dunn's billboard on Times Square. Like, certain schools are preparing for this, certain schools are adapting to it, and certain schools are trying to take advantage of it, like Miami. But it's just so many optics, so much decision, so much business, frankly, that's going to be created from this. But again, the schools that are ready to adapt are going to be the ones that have the most success right away. But in the long term, as you said, this is going to be really interesting to see where all this goes.
100%, it will be, and I'm excited to keep following it. I mean, they've had some great deals made already for the guys. Like I said, I like the Miami thing. I like what LSU's done. It's been a very good start for the first 5 days of name, image, and likeness.
We'll continue to talk name, image, and likeness throughout the show. Lots of players benefiting, some programs hoping to benefit from these new laws. Let's come back and talk a little bit of NBA. Christian Clark from NOLA.com will join the show. We'll talk Pelicans coaching search. We'll recap Game 1 of the NBA Finals last night. All that and more coming up here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
To the heroes who are working tirelessly to care for our communities, we thank you. We will never forget the countless hours you dedicated on the front lines, choosing to risk your own health to fight for our friends, neighbors, and family members.
I mean, you guys are out on the front lines fighting it.
We are grateful for your heroic acts and unwavering spirit. Together, we are overcoming this adversity and make our state healthier and more vibrant again. Auctioner Health.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the die-hard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All Star Toyota today.
In the sunshine, everybody loves the sunshine.
Service Mastery.
Coming up on Thursdays, Off the Bench. First-round pick Peyton Turner stops by for realsies this time. Plus, we preview NBA Finals Game 2 and Euro 2020 as the finals are set. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Welcome back into Middle Relief. Mario Jerez alongside Matt Musso. Time to talk a little bit of NBA. A 118-105 win for the Suns last night over the Milwaukee Bucks. Phoenix leads the NBA Finals 1-0. Game 2 tomorrow night from Phoenix Suns Arena. Want to recap the game and talk a little bit of Pelicans with our next guest. He is Christian Clark, who covers the Pels for NOLA.com down in New Orleans. Christian, thank you for joining the show once again, a recurring guest here on Middle Relief. How are you today?
Hey, guys, doing pretty good. So that was a fun game last night.
That it was. Let's talk about it. Chris Paul was amazing. Game-high 32 points, including a really good third quarter. The Suns pull away from a 118-105 victory. Giannis Antetokounmpo plays pretty well, but the Bucks still fall short and trail the series 1-0. What did you take away from Game 1?
Yeah, I thought Giannis looked really good. I thought he was moving well. I mean, that was kind of the biggest thing I was watching for is, you know, how is he going to look after his leg bent in a way that legs aren't really supposed to bend. So that gives me some hope, certainly, that this can be, you know, a competitive series. I mean, I still, you know, even though Milwaukee lost last night, I still think, you know, they have a really good chance of coming back. Probably that, and just, I mean, it's just not fair that the Suns have two guards who are such monsters attacking the pick and roll. I mean, there's not much you can do to defend Devin Booker or Chris Paul in the pick and roll when they have it rolling.
Yeah, not at all. They were unstoppable last night, especially Chris Paul, and especially in that third quarter that I mentioned when he scored 16 of his 32 points. He shot 6 for 7 in that quarter. He took the game over in that second half. Milwaukee makes a little push in the end, but can't hang on for the win. Are there any adjustments that Mike Budenholzer and our friend Charles Lee can make to stop that backcourt that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, pray against Chris Paul. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. You know, that closeout game in the Western Conference Finals and first game of the Finals. I mean, he's just been incredible. I mean, I guess you could shift Drew Holiday onto Chris Paul a little bit more. He started the game on Devin Booker. That's probably something that I would try. But yeah, there's only so much you can do. I mean, especially when Chris Paul is playing that well.
Hey, Christian, Matt Musso here. Yeah, of course, everybody's going to talk about Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and rightfully so. It kind of feels like the unsung hero for the Suns, definitely last night and probably all years. DeAndre Ayton shot 80% last night, was perfect from the free throw line, 22 and 19. I mean, what has he meant for the Suns throughout the entire postseason run, and especially last night?
Yeah, I mean, he was just ridiculous last night. I mean, he's just so good. You know, he doesn't do a whole lot of stuff that, you know, is kind of outside of his wheelhouse. You know, he's kind of just a screen setter. He's going to attack the glass really hard. I mean, when they throw it up to him, he's got great hands. Going to go up and finish. He's got a little soft touch on his jumper every now and then. But I mean, what he's doing at 22 years old is so impressive. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of guys that age, you know, especially for number one picks, they play with Chris Paul. I mean, they probably come away thinking like, man, I'm sick of this guy bossing me around. I mean, it's kind of gone the opposite way for him. I mean, he's taken all of that and, you know, used it as fuel. He's been incredible.
Christian Clark of NOLA.com joining us here on Middle Relief. Before we move on to the Pelicans, I do have one more question relating to the finals. And it was such a cool moment last night for, I think, any fan of basketball to see Chris Paul finally reach the NBA Finals after a 16-year NBA career that has had lots of highs, lots of lows, but he's finally in the finals. And as we mentioned, he took the game over last night, and he's 3 wins away from his first title. And if he were to win the title, if the Suns were able to get 3 more wins, what do you think that would do for Chris Paul's legacy when it comes to the all-time greats at the point guard position?
Yeah, honestly, I haven't sat down and thought about my 5 greatest point guards of all time. I'm sure that would help Chris Paul in those conversations and elevate his status among, maybe more casual fans. But to be honest, of course this would, elevate his legacy in my mind. But I think Chris Paul has been an incredible playoff performer with, a few slip-ups here and there for a while. I think he's got kind of an undeserved bad rap over the years. So, if this helps correct that, then great. But, as someone who's followed his career really closely, I feel I understood even before this, exactly how great Chris Paul was.
Hey, Christian, switch gears a little bit to the Pelicans, but keep a little finals twist on it, I guess. How likely do you think it is that the Pelicans' next head coach is coaching in this series, whether it be Willie Green or Charles Lee?
I would say very likely. I would honestly be shocked at this point if the next head coach wasn't one of those 2 guys. Everyone you talk to in NBA circles, those are the 2 names mentioned the most. We know that Fred Vinson recently interviewed. That's one in-house candidate. But I'm still expecting it to either be Willie Green or Charles Lee. And from what I'm told, the Pelicans are done. With the interview process. I don't think there are any more interviews to conduct. It's kind of just time to make a decision. And I think some of that might depend on how receptive these teams are to letting an assistant coach agree to a new deal while they are in the finals. I think that's something to continue to monitor. But yeah, I think it's going to be either Willie Green or Charles Lee.
Christian, you recently wrote an article on NOLA.com talking about Stan Van Gundy's recent appearances on the Dan Le Batard show, and he said that him and David Griffin had some real disagreements when it came to the atmosphere around the team versus what's happening in between the lines. Stan Van Gundy pretty much implied that David Griffin cares way too much about off-court things, relationships, things like that, whereas SVG was worried about what was going down on the court. So, again, the philosophical differences that we've been hearing about for so long show themselves once again. But what do you make of this entire situation? And do you think either Griff or Stan Van Gundy is more at fault in this situation?
Oh, man, that's a tough question because, David Griffin was the guy who hired Stan Van Gundy, and clearly Stan Van Gundy was not the right guy for this team, so the hire should never have happened in the first place. I think Stan Van Gundy is certainly not blameless in this. I think I disagreed with the comments he made 2 days ago on the Dan Le Batard show or whatever it was. I think it's silly, frankly, that you think you shouldn't be judged by your relationships with your players, and especially if you don't think that's an important part of your job when you didn't really improve on the court at all. They went 30-42 in their last season under Alvin Gentry. They went 31-41 last year. They were a worse defensive team, in the rankings last year than they were the year before. So, if you're not showing any improvement on the court and you have, not great relationships with your players, those are definitely things that have to be taken into consideration.
Christian Clark of NOLA.com joining us here on Middle Relief. And Christian, the Pelicans are in the news today, as previously mentioned, because ESPN is reporting that the Cavs, the Rockets, the Thunder, and the New Orleans Pelicans have already inquired with the Detroit Pistons about possibly moving up for the number 1 overall pick in this year's NBA draft. And most people think it's going to be Cade Cunningham out of Oklahoma State. Have you heard anything regarding this story and about the Pelicans' interest in possibly moving up to the number 1 pick in the draft?
Yeah, my kind of take on it is that I think this is a lot of posturing from the Detroit Pistons. I think there's a very small likelihood, they'd actually move off the number 1 pick. Cade Cunningham might not be, as exciting of a prospect as Zion Williamson or Anthony Davis a couple years before that, but he had a really high floor. All-star potential for sure. I would be shocked if the Pistons ended up moving this pick.
Speaking of moving picks, though, so the Pelicans, there's been so much talk about what they might actually do with the 10th pick. If they move it, maybe, before the draft, package it into a deal for a veteran, or do they make the pick? I mean, if you had to put a percentage chance on it, right, Christian, how likely do you think it is that the Pelicans actually make a pick at number 10?
Maybe 40%.
Okay.
I think it's definitely more likely that the pick ends up getting moved than them actually making the selection. I just think there's an understanding in the building that they need to show progress next season. I mean, they don't really have that much of a runway anymore. I mean, Zion Williamson is eligible for an extension in the summer of 2022. He's not happy based on a lot of different reports. I mean, I think that's kind of obvious too, just like hearing him talk to the media. This has got to get better quickly. I mean, they have one of the best young basketball players in the NBA history, and you can't mess around.
Christian, is Fred Vinson still a factor when it comes to the Pelicans coaching search? And if he was, do you think that's a role he would be ready for?
Yeah, I mean, the team in the previous few days interviewed him in person. So, I mean, I think it's accurate to say he's still a factor, certainly. Whether he's ready, I think, that's an interesting question. I mean, I think he's a guy who's comfortable, in his role as assistant. I mean, Stan Van Gundy openly campaigned for Fred to get the job, so I think that's a vote of confidence from a guy who has had a lot of success in the NBA. His 8-month run in New Orleans notwithstanding. But that's a great question. I don't know. I mean, it's head coach is just such a hard job, man. I mean, there's so many different things to balance. I mean, Michael Malone in Denver kind of compared being a head coach today to a CEO. I mean, it's just so much more than just X's and O's.
Yeah, former New Orleans assistant Michael Malone, which makes this so interesting to me. Christian, you never know. If somebody is ready for the opportunity, they might be ready for this team in particular. That is a really good team, in my opinion, when it comes to young talent, with Zion Williamson and with Brandon Ingram. And that's where I want to go next before we wrap up the interview, talk about the players we know will be on the Pelicans. And I want to start with Brandon Ingram because we've kind of discussed him a lot on this show. A lot of people have been critical of his defense. They've been critical of his play in the fourth quarter. He's even come up in trade rumors whenever we were talking about the possibility of the Pelicans possibly acquiring Damian Lillard from the Portland Trail Blazers. But what do you make of Brandon Ingram's role on the team going forward? Is the criticism fair, and can he still make that next leap and return to all-star form?
I mean, I do think criticism is fair. I mean, this is a guy who 5 years in has not even been to the playoffs. I mean, he played on a team with LeBron. That team wasn't able to go to the playoffs. I know Brandon dealt with, some pretty serious health issues that season, which kind of messed things up for him. But I mean, I think there's a guy who's got to make some steps on the defensive end. I mean, I think, quite frankly, that was a source of disagreement with Brandon Ingram and Stan Van Gundy. Stan Van Gundy is saying you got to get better on defense, and Brandon really never made those strides. But I mean, the guys have got incredible talent. I mean, I think they need better roster to allow him to shine even more offensively, give him some more room to work with. I mean, I think probably too many mid-range shots last year. That can be a weapon for him, but don't go to it as much. And he's just got to take some steps on defense. It's time. I mean, he's coming up in year 6. He's never been in the playoffs. I mean, they want him to be a franchise cornerstone. They're paying him like a franchise cornerstone. So it's time.
I agree. And he's on his 4th coach in 4 years. Zion Williamson is in his 3rd coach in the last 3 years. And that's where I want to ask you next. Zion Williamson, in your opinion, where does he need to improve the most here in year 4? Or year 3, excuse me.
I would say probably his biggest weakness is defending in space. I mean, anytime the ball got swung and needed to close out, it kind of looked like he was moving in quicksand a little bit. I think in the pick and roll he could get shredded. So I think just continuing to work his way into elite shape, that would go a long way, because we saw this was a guy with incredible defensive instincts and ability at Duke. It's not like he was a bad defender in college. It's kind of funny if you go back and read the draft stuff, Sam Vecini for The Athletic. I think, really good draft analysts saying this is a guy with Defensive Player of the Year potential in the NBA a couple of years down the road. We haven't seen anything close to that really since he's come into the league. So that end for sure.
Christian Clark of NOLA.com giving us some of his time here on Middle Relief. Christian, thank you for your insight. Have a great day, my man.
Hey, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Christian.
Thank you. Interesting stuff there. Lots of work for the Pelicans to do. And Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson, as good as they've been, they definitely have to step up in certain areas if the Pelicans are going to reach their goals next season. We'll come back and react to the interview with Christian, wrap up the hour here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Yo, Jake here for Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic, the place that's going to be convenient for you during an inconvenient time. Look, you hear me talk about my 4 boys all the time, and sometimes things like stitches, well, they happen. And in fact, they have. And Patient Plus is always taking care of us, just like they'll do the same for you. And now with 7 convenient locations across the Baton Rouge area, open from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And also at patientplusuc.com, you can sign up for your appointment on the way to the clinic. That's Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic. Get in and get better.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the diehard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli? I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice?
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. LSU has a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about Jason Kelly and Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap it. Join us Wednesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Middle Relief. Shout out to Christian Clark for coming on and talking some Pelicans and NBA with us. And it's interesting comment that you made, Musso. We might be seeing the next Pelicans head coach on one of either the Suns or the Bucks benches. And it's interesting because Chris Paul gave Willie Green credit directly yesterday in a post-game interview when he said that Willie Green was inspiring or was pushing the Phoenix Suns to push the pace a little bit more, create more possessions, play a little bit faster, and it worked out pretty well. But that is direct praise from the best point guard in the game right now for a coach that might take over the Pelicans. So if you're a Pelicans fan that's vouching for Willie Green, that might be music to your ears.
Sure should be. I mean, look, pushing the pace in the second half could have been a good thing for the Pelicans last year, I guess, right? Yeah. I mean, so that is something that certainly should be music to your ears. That, for me, was the most interesting part. And maybe not the most interesting, but the part that stood out the most from our interview with Christian Clark was his thoughts on the coaching search, and that it really is either going to be Willie Green or Charles Lee. I know he mentioned Fred Vinson did interview with Pelicans administration for the job, but it's interesting for Willie Green and Charles Lee, I should say, is interesting for a couple reasons to me. Number one is it gives you a bit of a timeline. Christian mentioned he doesn't really believe either of those teams would be too gung-ho on letting these guys interview while their team is playing in the finals. So it gives you a bit of a timeline, and you should be rooting for that series to be over as quickly as possible if you're a Pelicans fan. It's interesting because, like you said, you've got Chris Paul, best point guard in the game right now, vouching for his coaching ability in an NBA Finals game. That should get you excited. And Willie Green, specifically, is the guy who played in New Orleans.
Yeah, Pelicans fans know him well, and Charles Lee is a guy that's kind of up and coming and has had success with the same coach, with Mike Budenholzer in Atlanta and then following him to Milwaukee. And it's really interesting for the reason that you said. That was kind of my thing with Stan Van Gundy when it came to X's and O's, the thing he wants to focus on, right? I thought the Pelicans played way too slow. I loved the pace they played with under Alvin Gentry. Would have liked to pair that with just a little bit of defense, which is what I think they were going for with the Stan Van Gundy hire. Obviously, that didn't work out, but these are two really interesting candidates, and I'm really curious to see, Musso, how much weight who wins the series will have when it comes to the Pelicans job, right? Because do they have an agreement in place ahead of time? Probably not, because as you said, they have not interviewed. When Alvin Gentry took over, he was the assistant coach on the Warriors that won the title that year, but they already had an agreement in place. You remember him in the locker room afterwards with Steve Kerr saying, AD, this is going to be us, AD. It's not this kind of situation here. So maybe that is a good situation for the Pelicans, but I'm curious to see kind of where they stand in the eyes of these candidates, because are they automatically going to come here? If they don't, are you going to revert back to Fred Vinson? Is that going to be your plan? I'm curious to see what they are thinking.
I think Willie Green feels a little bit more likely right now than Charles Lee. And part of that reason, Mario, for me is Charles Lee's a guy who, like you said, has followed Mike Budenholzer around a little bit. So there's obviously some type of loyalty, some type of bond there. Would he just up and leave?
Good point.
For the Pelicans? And is that a situation he wants to be his first head coaching job? I don't know. It seems like Willie Green might be the guy just because the ties already to the city, having played there. And, look, we'll go back to it one more time. Chris Paul openly praising him. How many times did you hear that last year?
Yeah.
Did you hear anyone on the team praise Stan Van Gundy? No, mostly they praised Fred Vinson, honestly.
Yeah.
If that's what they're looking for, if they're looking for a player's coach, all signs seem to kind of point to Willie Green right now, just reading tea leaves.
Yeah. And if it's not him, I really still do hope it's Fred Vinson, man, because none of them have had coaching experience, neither in the NBA at least, Charles Lee, nor Willie Green, nor Fred Vinson. And Willie Green's teams and Charles Lee teams has had more success recently, but I don't think enough people are discussing the angle that Fred Vinson can kind of maybe learn from the mistakes of past head coaches. He saw what Monty Williams did not do right with Anthony Davis. He saw what Alvin Gentry did to make him lose the job. he saw firsthand what Stan Van Gundy did in 1 year to piss the team off so much that they canned him after that singular season. So I think Fred Vincent is a guy that has very similar qualifications, but has been with this franchise specifically for a long time. And I think that perspective can really help him out if he were to become head coach.
Root for a quick finals. That's all I'm saying. Root for a quick finals. Also, somebody just finished cooking lunch on this floor, and that smells amazing. Do you smell that?
Yeah.
That smells really, really good. I'm not sure what that is. It kind of has like an herb smell to it, maybe some chicken of some sorts with some herbs on it. That smells absolutely phenomenal.
Definitely a chickeny smell to that.
Now I'm hungry. That's annoying.
We will definitely check on that over the break and see if we can get some food in here. This is Middle Relief with Mario Jerez and Matt Musso. Hour number 2 coming up next here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Middle Relief, and after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further. Like vans customized for work or play. With safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
Introducing Vizzy Lemonade, the only lemonade hard seltzer with antioxidant vitamin C. All new Vizzy Lemonade. Step up your seltzer game.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here on Middle Relief, hour number 2, Wednesday. It's Wednesday, July the 7th. Matt Musso alongside Mario Jerez, Casey Gaines, and Danny Cardenas here as well. And we're going to get into some Saints talk here, but I just saw on Twitter that the college football playoff has a new member of the selection committee. That's former head coach Tyrone Willingham has been named to the selection committee. He served on the committee from 2014 to 2017. He will complete the term for R.C. Slocum, who is stepping down for health reasons. So, new committee member for the college football playoff. Guess we can kind of lead off with that little bit of breaking news there. What we're going to get into in this segment, though, is New Orleans Saints and quarterback talk, because there's a bit of a debate happening on Twitter right now surrounding the former New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees and if he really were the best option for the Saints this past year, or if it maybe should have been Jameis Winston. Not even Taysom Hill, if it should have been Jameis Winston. And Mario, I know you have thoughts on this. I just want to get mine out of the way here real quick before turning this over to you for a minute. Drew Brees, while he wasn't the same Drew Brees he had been earlier in his career, and again, he was riddled with injuries, and we'll get into that. Drew Brees in that situation was still the best option for the Saints, because do you remember what the offseason was for the NFL last year? It was riddled with COVID restrictions. You had no time. Jameis was not up to speed totally on the offense. That's the whole reason it was Taysom Hill. That's the whole reason it was Jameis if Drew goes down in a game, but if you have weeks to prepare, it's going to be Taysom Hill. So you were going to go with the guy who was familiar, and that was Drew Brees. So that's really my take on that, that for no other reason was he the guy for the job other than that offseason was nuts. He'd been there for 15 years. He knew exactly what Sean Payton and staff and team wanted to accomplish. It's unfortunate that the injuries happened. Was Drew Brees ever going to stretch the field like he used to? No. But a healthy Drew Brees can run that offense at a high clip. You saw that at the end of the 2019 season.
Yeah, for sure. And the team was still successful. They were still 13-3. They still won the division, and they were still top 10 in most offensive categories. I mean, it was different. You have to give, I think, Drew Brees and Sean Payton a lot of credit for kind of the creativity that they had to display with Brees' arm strength dying. But they were still really efficient, Musso, and he still got the job done. And I don't know what do you really expect the Saints to tell Drew Brees, no, you're too hurt, you're not going to finish out this postseason that you came back for? I mean, the debate here really, Musso, is Drew Brees probably should have retired after the 2019 season.
Correct.
That's the main debate that exists here, and we all know the angle with Tom Brady and everything, but I agree 100% with you. You can't practically tell me that you think either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston would have been a better option than Drew Brees. Maybe Jameis Winston can throw the ball a little bit farther, but there is a reason he was cut from his team, and I'm still very optimistic for Jameis Winston. But again, that's after a year of being on the bench behind Drew Brees and after a traditional offseason, because as you said, it was not a traditional offseason, and I think that's just I've seen just a lot of dumb comments on Twitter, and I don't respond to them because it's just random people on Twitter. But I saw one guy say that Brees is just trying to stat pad. Brees hasn't really done anything for New Orleans. Like, are you serious? Coming in, doing what he did, not just in the beginning of his career, Musso, not just for a team that had 7 winning seasons in the first 40 years of existence. Brees had more than that in his 15 years as starting quarterback. But what he's done in the last 4 years with his arm strength dissipating, I think he's done a really good job of still being a great quarterback, but more death by 1,000 cuts instead of death by one fell swoop, right? And they were still moving the ball. And this all got brought up because BR Gridiron put up a tweet that was actually praising Drew Brees and was saying never let Drew Brees' toughness get lost on you. And it resurfaced this old post did from Brittany Brees, Drew Brees' wife, obviously. And Brittany says, after crying for a few days, I'm so grateful for this year. And she goes on to list all the injuries that Drew Brees reportedly suffered last season, including 11 broken ribs and a collapsed lung. So quarterbacks play through pain a lot. Drew Brees, I remember when he was younger, like 2016 season, played with a torn plantar fascia in his foot. So it's nothing uncommon, and maybe that contributed to Brees' shortcomings last year, but he was definitely still the best option. You can't tell me otherwise.
So now you can look forward, right? I guess that's what's going to happen right now with the Saints offseason moving a little bit as slow as it's going to be. People are going to argue about if Drew Brees was the best option for the Saints last year. And look, you can talk all you want about did the Saints underachieve here recently with all the talent that they had and whatnot. And you can have that debate, but really what you should focus on is what's coming for New Orleans. And that is Jameis or Taysom. And it looks very much like it's going to be Jameis Winston. And if you believe he was the better option last year, like some people do, and again, not just over Taysom, over Brees, which apparently some people do, you should be incredibly optimistic for him this year. And I kind of am. I think Jameis, it's been long said he knows how to say all the right things. Jameis is also doing all the right things this go around too. I mean, there's been plenty of video. I know we had some video in the document yesterday that we didn't necessarily get to of Jameis working with the receivers. You hear it all the time. Jameis is out working with this guy. Jameis is working with this guy. Jameis here, Jameis there, Jameis there. Well, who is Taysom working with?
Yeah, I mean, the argument could be Taysom does, just because Taysom's not out there doesn't mean he's not working to improve. But that is a good point. You've seen him with Traquan. You've seen him with Troutman. You've seen him with all these teammates in different places, too. Guys are even staying at his house in Tampa Bay where he's training with the personal coach. So that's definitely been apparent. And I agree with you, but I would say I'm cautiously optimistic because he is doing all the right things. He's looking really good, in really good shape, frankly. Look to have slimmed down a little bit, but he's still got to do it on the field, man. All this looks really good. It is on air. And after 15 years of what we saw with Drew Brees, I'm not going to get excited for Jameis doing it on air. But I am excited for the reasons that I previously mentioned. Not only did he have a year playing, not on the field, but in the system with Sean Payton and with Drew Brees, but he now has this full offseason, and he has a really good mindset, I think. That spoke so many volumes last year, Musso. That was all we talked about on the Saints Spanish postgame show after the game was the moment Brees had with Jameis Winston when he looked him in the face, knowing that all the cameras were on him, and told him, this is your team now. Jameis knows that. He's prepared for it. He's doing all the right things. That still doesn't mean he's going to be good. So I am optimistic. I can see him have a lot of success, but I got to see him do it first, starting week 1 against Green Bay.
You're not alone in that. I mean, that's how mostly everybody's going to feel. That's how you should feel, right? I mean, look, the lasting memory people have of Jameis Winston, at least from Tampa, is 30-30, right? It's 30-30 year.
What if I told you?
The 30 picks, the 30 touchdowns. Look, when he came into the game against the San Francisco 49ers for the injured Drew Brees, he almost threw an interception in that football game.
Hit the safety right in the chest.
He almost threw a pick in that game. So I get where it's like, okay, I need to see it, and what you saw wasn't good. Granted, the last play Jameis Winston had in the Saints uniform was a touchdown pass in the playoff game, but it's definitely a mixed bag, right, so far for Jameis in New Orleans. So the lasting impression you have is Jameis in Tampa. And I think that's where you get the see it to believe it. But when he's not just saying the right things, when he's also doing the right things, working out with teammates and being a leader, showing the leadership, which is something that Sean Payton and Mickey Loom, they value that greatly for the Saints.
Yeah, and he's got to win the locker room too, because he can do all this, but you still do not win the locker room in the offseason. It would be such a great scenario for the Saints if in one of these early games, preferably the one against Green Bay to open the season at home in front of a sold-out Superdome, Jameis can engineer like a game-winning drive, or Jameis can have a game where like he throws 2 picks, but he still comes back and wins at the end. He needs to do something, I think, early on to win the locker room. And this is all assuming he's going to start because, again, there's still I think he is too, but there's still a small chance that Sean Payton could be like, screw all you people. I'm going with Taysom Hill. That reality still exists.
I think that's an incredibly small chance.
But common sense leads to believe you that it's going to be Jameis. But we'll find out soon, Musso. I mean, training camp's going to be on and popping not too long from now.
Not too long at all, Mario. So let's see. So we were kind of talking about during the break. SEC Media Days are 1 week from Monday. The week after that, the Saints report.
Yeah.
And then the week after that, LSU reports.
Yeah, and then we can count with one hand or with two hands, single digits, how many weeks we are away from preseason football, preseason NFL football. And I'll tell you what, Musso, I know everybody always poo-poos on the preseason.
It's stupid.
Even people in the industry, even play-by-play guys complain about it. I am one of them. But I'll tell you what, I'm even looking forward to the preseason this year. I missed that last year. I didn't think that I would. And having the football season last year was great. Props to Roger Goodell and the NFL for doing everything that they had to do to make it happen. But now to have a sold-out Superdome, to have those preseason games, and a time where they're frankly a little bit more important, Musso. I mean, you still have some roster spots open here. You still have some guys battling for positions. Who can be the next Pierre Thomas or the next Lance Moore? You know, guys that we've never heard of, undrafted guys that can have an awesome preseason and then be one of the best players in the history of the franchise. So I took that for granted. I never thought I'd say that, but for those reasons, I'm even looking forward to preseason this year.
And it's going to be close. And it's going to be closer. And it's going to be closer. And then it's going to be here. And preseason for the Saints this year could be very interesting for the quarterback position, right? And for a lot of different, I'm going to watch just because it's football and I like football and I'm going to watch when football's on TV. So, but to watch them potentially divvy up the game between Jameis and Taysom. And what I'm interested in is Taysom's role if Jameis does get the job. Because all reports are that Taysom's been fully on quarterback. Now, again, granted, he's probably just, he's done his role so much, he knows what they want out of him in that playbook. But it will be interesting to see, once this is decided and when it's decided, what Taysom Hill does if he's not the guy. Which, again, I think it's a very slim chance at this point that it will be Taysom Hill over Jameis Winston.
Yeah, the preseason scenario situation that you just described is something Saints fans have not seen in a long time. Even going back pre-Breeze, Aaron Brooks was entrenched and pretty much...
Aaron Brooks.
I know, man, I know. But he was pretty much entrenched, and there wasn't really that battle in the preseason game. But we are going to pay close attention to every single one of Taysom snaps, every single one of Jameis Winston snaps. And how about Ian Book as well? A lot of people are really interested to see what he can do after the Saints spend a fourth-round pick on him, somebody who had a successful career at Notre Dame, really big sample size, and somebody who Sean Payton's been really high on. And it might not work out with Jameis or Taysom Hill. That's still not a possibility. Or on the other extreme, what if Jameis Winston plays so well that he maybe outprices the Saints, who still have to pay guys like Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams and Marshawn Lattimore? So preseason, usually not fun, but it's going to have a lot of intrigue if you're a New Orleans Saints fan this year.
It really is surprising with all the storyline possibilities that the Saints have that their offseason has been so damn quiet. I mean, it really is. It is very surprising that has been the case. All right, we're going to grab our first break here of the second hour. Come back. Wilson Alexander from The Advocate in Baton Rouge will join the show. We will talk Jason Kelly to LSU. We will talk the two remaining staff positions for Jay Johnson. Also, the Major League Baseball draft. First round begins this Sunday night. Got a lot of LSU guys weighing their decision. We'll talk about potential roster moves and shakeout after the MLB draft with Wilson as well. That's coming up next here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
50 years ago on Easter Sunday, Breck's Baton Rouge Zoo proudly opened our doors, and we've been hopping ever since. 5 decades of connecting people with animals, teaching our community about the problems facing wildlife and how we can help, and working with zoos across the world to protect endangered species. Today, our future is taking flight by stretching the possibilities of what your zoo can become, while we keep it fun and affordable for everyone. Thanks for coming along.
Starting in 1974, Central Plumbing has served Baton Rouge and surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Through these tough and trying times, we want you to remember that the Payne family is here to continue to support and serve you. As a multi-generational business, there is no job that is too big or too small. Residential, commercial, industrial, hospitality, we're here for anything you need. 24/7, 365. Give us a call, 225-925-8552.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Middle Relief, and after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and
coming up on Thursdays, Off the Bench. First-round pick Peyton Turner stops by for realsies this time. Plus, we preview NBA Finals Game 2 and Euro 2020 as the finals are set. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Coach Jay Johnson has hired a pitching coach. That is Jason Kelly, formerly of Arizona State, Washington, and Cal Poly. Wilson Alexander, the advocate, covers the Tigers, joins us now to talk about it. Wilson, thank you for your time. How are you on this Wednesday?
I'm doing well. How are y'all today?
Doing well, man. I'm trying to get the week back in order. Today feels like Tuesday. Yesterday felt like Monday, but we're making it. We're making it. So I think the timeline of events is fairly settled. It's been reported on a lot, right? I mean, Kelly's let go at Arizona State on Friday, interviews on Saturday, is hired on Monday. My first question really entails maybe when he popped up on LSU's radar, really. I mean, the first two names you heard for the longest time were Rob Childress and Sean Allen. When really did Jay Johnson zero in on Jason Kelly?
Yeah, I think it'd be fair to say he zeroed in on him sort of late last week. I mean, Jay's been going through a lot of candidates and interviewing a lot of people, considering a lot of people. as he said in his introductory press conference, this is not a narrow search. He's heard from a lot of people who sort of wanted to put their own names and hats in the ring, and exactly when, what day it would have been or something like that, that he sort of decided on Jason Kelly, sort of zeroed in on Jason Kelly would be hard to say. But he's been sort of in the mix for, better part of a week now. And, ended up being the guy they chose out of, Jay could have gone in a lot of different directions with this, but Jason was the guy that he wanted in the end.
Wilson, do you think there's something to be said about the familiarity between Jason Kelly and Jay Johnson, two guys that have worked together for a long time? And obviously Kelly had a lot of respect for him taking that interview, knowing that he might be fired with Arizona State, and that's exactly what happened. Do you think that's something that could be beneficial in their time together at LSU?
Yeah, possibly. They've certainly coached against each other a good bit, being in the Pac-12 at the same time for a long time. Back when, I guess it was 2018, when Jason Kelly was still at Washington, they just absolutely shut down Arizona during a weekend series pretty early in the year. That was, of course, Washington's best season maybe ever. I mean, it went to the College World Series for the first time, and it held Arizona, which is obviously, as we've learned over the last few weeks, had such a prolific offense under Jay for so many years, held them to 3 runs over the entire weekend series. And in that Saturday game, middle game, shut them out 1-0. And Jay's offenses weren't shut out again during the rest of his tenure at Arizona. So he clearly had seen what Jason was capable of doing, had it done to him and his teams a little bit there. And so that probably stood out to him during the interview process. As for how it will be beneficial, I mean, hard to say. I don't think they've really worked together yet, but they've clearly played against each other and know what each other is capable of.
So now they have 2 spots left to fill, right? And it's going to be a process. He's been true to his word in that ever since his press conference when he says, we're not going to sacrifice the hire for the sake of time. One thing I am interested in, though, is so we've seen players from Arizona follow Jay Johnson. Is there any possibility that maybe some of his former staff might follow him to Baton Rouge for a position on this staff?
Yeah, I think that a name to look out for in that would be Mark Wanaka. He's been Jay's sort of right-hand man for a really long time. They, I think, first probably met at Point Loma Nazarene back in 2003, and then they've been together at Nevada and then Arizona for the entirety of Jay's tenure at both spots. Wanaka is actually originally a pitching coach early in his career, but then came on as sort of the volunteer hitting coach and has been in that role for a long time and has helped Jay a lot in that. And that might be a name to watch out for as LSU looks to fill that sort of volunteer hitting role, because that is how it's going to be on this staff because of Jay's prowess, background in hitting. He's going to bring on a volunteer assistant to be a volunteer hitting coach and then hire a recruiting coordinator. I would look out for Wanaka as somebody who might follow him from that Arizona staff.
Is there maybe a potential for either one of those to break for? I mean, like, is he looking to fill out recruiting coordinator before the volunteer coach?
I don't know exactly. I think he's just trying to make sure that he gets a staff that's cohesive, that works well together. As you mentioned, as he said, he's not really sacrificing time on this one. He just wants to make sure he gets the right people. I don't think he has the necessary order, in which case he wants them to be hired and brought on.
The MLB draft, Wilson Alexander's our guest here, starts Sunday. It's always a very interesting time when it comes to college baseball because your current roster, of course, your recruiting class. What kind of influx is LSU really expecting with the current team as the draft gets underway this weekend?
Yeah, that's the thing about in the midst of all this assistant hires that's going on now, because for the first time it's happening in July, and it's because so much later. Jay's got a lot to handle right now.
Right.
So although he has to find those assistant coaches, making sure the roster's in place has been his first priority since he came on board. Making sure that they've got a good chunk of players together, because you could hire some good assistants, but if you don't have the players, it's not going to matter, at least for a couple of years. So that's kind of been their top priority here recently. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with LSU in this draft. There's some draft eligible players that they would love to get back so that they have experience on that roster and can help bring along these younger guys. They want to make sure they can keep as much of their signing class intact as possible. There's some guys who they could lose, obviously, through the draft, as you can every single year, but they're going to try to keep them on board. But they really want to make sure that some of those guys that were on the team last year who are draft eligible come back. They don't expect to get all of them back, but they're going to try to sort of get some of those guys through the draft and return.
Wilson Alexander, the advocate, joining us here on Middle Relief. I want to switch gears here and talk a little bit of LSU football with you, Wilson. We're 59 days away from the season now, 59 days away from the first game between LSU and UCLA, and the Tigers will have to play that game without who they thought would be their starting left tackle, as Dale Rosenthal entered the transfer portal last week. Cam Wire will probably step in immediately, but I think it's a big loss for LSU as far as depth is concerned. What do you make of Dale Rosenthal hitting the transfer portal, and how big of a blow do you think it is for LSU?
Man, I haven't thought about football in a minute. Y'all got me. Y'all really switching gears on me, throwing a curveball here.
59 days away, man. Got to be ready.
I know. Starting to get ready. We saw that Cam was a pretty capable replacement when Dare was in and out of the lineup last year. He's got a lot of potential. He's got certainly the size. He's tall. He's weighs over 300 pounds. He's got some pretty long arms. And they talked about Dare as a potential first-round pick. And so every time you lose him, that's going to hurt. But Cam has some experience that is going to be helpful, and he seems like he's poised to be able to step in at that left tackle spot. But that's obviously, other than maybe your center, probably the most important part of that line. And so it's going to hurt to lose Dare. But they seem to think Cam is a suitable fill-in. And they've also got some young guys that they like on that offensive line who could maybe end up pushing him during fall camp.
I probably should have started with this, Wilson, but I'll keep it a little more open-ended when it comes to LSU football. What do you think are some keys to the season for LSU as far as some biggest strengths and maybe your biggest concerns for the Tigers going into 2021?
Well, the biggest thing, of course, is how all these new coaches gel with all the players. I mean, it's hard. It's really, really hard for teams to replace pretty much their entire coaching staff and then come back that next fall and have really good, it takes time sometimes for those things to mesh. So that's probably going to be the biggest thing, is just how those new coaches sort of figure out how well they do figuring out sort of their players and their personnel. It obviously helps that they don't have all the restrictions that teams had last year in terms of working with guys in terms, face-to-face and meetings and all those things. They're going to be a little bit more back to normal, and so they'll be able to get back on the field with them again, and that'll help. But that's going to be the biggest thing, at least I think, going into this season, is how those coaches do. I mean, if they can hit the ground running really fast with their personnel. And other than that, pass defense was obviously a huge weakness for this team last year, giving up as many yards as it did to the air per game. If they have obviously talented guys in the secondary, when you look at Derek Stingley and Eli Ricks, but it's just a matter of making the whole thing work together as a unit to make sure that they can play the defense that they're used to again.
Wilson Alexander, theadvocate.com, LSU beat writer covering baseball and football. Wilson, we appreciate your time this afternoon, sir, talking some Jason Kelly and even hitting the curveball there with the LSU football.
Well, I appreciate y'all having me on. You have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Wilson. That's Wilson Alexander. Come back and get into segment number 3 here of hour 2. Maybe a little more NIL talks. We found a pretty creative list from Saturday Down South that we want to run through. So we'll do that when we come back here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you were born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
To the heroes who are working tirelessly to care for our communities, we thank you. We will never forget the countless hours you dedicated on the front lines, choosing to risk your own health to fight for our friends, neighbors, and family members.
I mean, you guys are out on the front lines fighting it.
We are grateful for your heroic acts and unwavering spirit. Together, we are overcoming this adversity and make our state healthier and more vibrant again. Auctioner Health.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the die-hard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Sunshine. Everybody loves the sunshine.
Service Master Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. LSU has a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about Jason Kelly and Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap it. Join us Wednesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So Mario, we've talked about NIL deals a lot and interesting ones that have happened. We aren't the only ones doing that. Connor O'Gara at Saturday Down South ranked his top 5 so far NIL deals that he's seen and that he's enjoyed. Derek Stingley was on the list with walk-ons. That's good. You know, Milo Tees, we mentioned Bo Nix and all that. This is the one that really caught me. And there's 3 Tennessee players that have inked a deal with something called Metro Straw. Okay, Metro Straw. So what that is it's a ground covering company.
Yeah.
Basically, right?
Landscaping.
Landscaping, pine straw, things like that. Get it? Metro Straw. That's cool. The part that blows my mind about this is a 7-figure company that a current Tennessee receiver is the CEO of. How is that even a thing? That this man, he's a college kid. He's the CEO of a 7-figure company based out of Atlanta. And he's inked 3 of his teammates to deals.
Well, he's got to, number one, have some serious connections, or he's got some serious resolve in being proactive and being able to go to school and play football and do this on the side. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable. But again, it just goes to show how kind of delayed these NIL rules are, that this guy could not profit off of his own company before this.
Correct. Okay, so here's the deal. So do you think it's one of those things maybe where it's like he's the CEO, but he's not the acting CEO?
I mean, if CEO's in your title, you have a pretty significant stake in the company.
You have a stake in the company, but I mean, he's a Division I football player. He can't actually be the CEO of a company. How did he become that? He might an inheritance. Like how does I don't know how old this guy is. I maybe should have looked. His name is Grant Firking. It doesn't say, his year at LSU at Tennessee, but the guy's he's a college football player, CEO of a company. That blew my mind. That blew my mind.
Something that blew my mind, or maybe not blew my mind, but I did not know they had Canes in Oklahoma, because we've talked so much about Miles Brennan.
Oh, yeah, man.
Reaching a deal with Raising Canes and with Smoothie King here locally, but they also struck it pretty big with some non-LSU players. Spencer Rattler is the player I'm referencing, Oklahoma quarterback, somebody who a lot of people view as a top NFL prospect in a couple years. And also Texas A&M running back Isaiah Spiller, who we've talked about on this show, one of 3 SEC running backs to run over 1,000 yards last year. That's interesting to me, but the most interesting of those deals is the one with Miles Brennan, because they seem to be operating under the assumption that Miles Brennan is going to, start at quarterback. What happens to these agreements if Max Johnson wins the job?
Well, I mean, I don't think anything, right? I mean, Miles is still very marketable. I mean, that goes back to what we talked about originally. It doesn't just have to be because of your play on the field. It can be because of other things. And I mean, Miles Brennan is a very marketable guy.
So yeah, that's fine, but you can't be marketable if you don't play. He's literally never played. The marketability you're talking about is him at LSU.
Not necessarily, or his social media or things like that. I mean,
that was extrapolated because he plays for LSU.
Maybe in his case, but those followers are still there that you can still pay. Like, that's the whole point of this, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, but still, again, I think Miles Brennan, very marketable as the quarterback, potentially the starting quarterback at LSU. Raising Canes obviously is a Baton Rouge-based company. And if he doesn't get the starting job, most people seem to think he will probably transfer. I mean, that's not a given, but common sense would tell you that after 4 years, if you want a career in professional football, you eventually have to get on the field. And I don't know, man. I can't help but think, but does Todd Graves know something that we don't? I mean,
I don't know. Look, I'm not going to hazard a guess there, but like you said, they've got Canes in a lot of places. I mean, you got A&M running back Spiller's got a Canes deal, Spencer Rattler. I mean, there's ways for the deals to stay in place. I mean, I think all that was thought about.
What
honestly.
if he goes to Wyoming? Is Raising Canes going to want to sponsor the Wyoming starting quarterback?
Maybe they're fixing to build one in Wyoming. I have no idea. I mean, I can't really speak on that. I'm not Miles Brennan. I'm definitely not Todd Graves.
But you are an LSU fan, and this holds a lot of weight, obviously, with the starting quarterback, battle raging on. And now with Miles Brennan signing with not only this company, but with Smoothie King, with others. And I love Miles Brennan. I think he shows the same proactiveness that we were talking about with the Tennessee player, because you're right, he has built himself a following. He's obviously very cognizant of these kind of things. You saw him post a video throwing the ball to his friend on a boat, and he did that probably with a purpose. But if he becomes LSU's backup quarterback again and loses the job to a sophomore and Max Johnson, I think some of that marketability goes away.
I not as much as you would think. I don't think so, at least. I mean, I don't know, and it depends on what would happen. I don't think Miles Brennan's NIL deals are going to have any impact on Coach O and Jake Pete's decision on who's going to start at quarterback.
Not at all, but that decision could have impact on the NIL thing. That's my point.
Nah, maybe. I don't know. I think the marketability is still very much there for somebody like Miles Brennan.
It'll be interesting to see, but again, big week for Raising Canes. You got Miles Brennan, regardless of what happens with that. You also have Isaiah Spiller sponsoring your delicious chicken, and you also have Spencer Rattler. So really good week for Raising Canes. But again, going to be really interesting to see how that partnership with Miles Brennan kind of goes forward here as LSU gets closer to the season and eventually decide on a starting quarterback.
Yeah, but again, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving it nearly as much credit, but I just think that, I mean, he's on with them, and that won't really change. I mean, it's still still a guy.
We'll
that,
see
that
if he
has
wins
a lot of sway.
Yeah,
So.
if he wins the job, it'll be all good, and the starting quarterback of LSU and the head coach of LSU would both promote Raising Cane's, which I'm sure Todd Graves would love very much.
Yes, I mean I'm kind of surprised that more at LSU haven't really signed on there. That was always one that people pointed to the most. I think would have been Raising Cane's.
Not everybody can pose with the dog, man. You got to have some skins on the walls to have that job.
You know who can pose with the dog is Arkansas wide receiver.
What a transition co-host. I'm clapping for you.
This is my favorite deal so far. I'll be honest. And that is Arkansas wide receiver Trey. I have to find his name. I lost his name.
It's all good. His name is Trey Knox.
Trey Knox signed a deal with was it PetSmart?
PetSmart.
Him and his dog, Blue. His pup, Blue. It's a husky. Signed on. I love it. That's phenomenal.
Is it PetSmart or Pets?
PetSmart. It is PetSmart.
Okay.
PetSmart. Arkansas wide receiver Trey Knox and his dog, Blue. They signed his dog. Look, I'm a huge dog person. I love dogs. They're very much a soft spot for me. And so again, I just flipped over the YouTube chat. The followers won't be there when he's not the starters. Myles Brennan has started 3 games at LSU. The followers have been there. They will be there. Olivia Dunn, she has plenty of followers. Sharif O'Neal has plenty of followers. Neither of those two have had significant playing time at LSU.
Yeah, but those guys built a reputation before they were associated with LSU. Myles Brennan has always either been the quarterback in waiting or the guy that's going to take over for Joe Burrow, and that has created a lot of buzz.
Are you really just going to go unfollow Myles Brennan because he's not the starting quarterback?
Yeah.
No, you're not, because he started 3 games.
You
didn't do it then. What's to say he doesn't win the job and he's the backup? So he's in the same position he was in when everybody was still following him. Like, you're not just going to lose followers because you didn't win the job.
And I'm obviously kind of assuming here that he would transfer, so he would no longer be associated with LSU. So if you're an LSU fan, you're scrolling through your Twitter, you remember you forgot to unfollow Myles Brennan, you see a picture of him in a Wyoming jersey, are you going to hit unfollow?
No, but I'm not. I'm telling you I'm not. But I mean, you're assuming he goes to Wyoming. TJ Finley transferred and went to Auburn. Are you going to tell me the Auburn quarterback's not marketable?
No, that's
and I'm not even saying he's going to transfer. I can't speak for that. But I just think that's ridiculous to say that, he's not, if he's not the starter, the followers are gone. No, he started 3 games and the followers are still all there. I mean, that's my point with this, is it's not all about play on the field.
No, that's true. And the thing with Kevin Knox even speaks to that. And that kind of, speaks to, you don't have to be a star to benefit from this kind of stuff.
I'd never heard of this guy.
Yeah.
Before the other day.
Yeah. 7 catches for 70 yards in the full season last year, but he has a really cute dog. He looks like a really good boy.
His dog's adorable.
I wish the surface was working so we could show it on the screen here, but he has a really cute dog. He obviously has a good social media presence, and I'm not saying Myles Brennan doesn't, man, but the whole reason he has this following, the whole reason he signed with Raising Cane's is specifically and explicitly because of his connection to LSU. He was a very highly rated recruit that people were excited from the start. Then Joe Burrow came, and then he was looked at as the guy waiting in the wings, the successor. And that's why he has all this following. But again, eventually I feel like he wants to get on the field, as do the people that sponsor him.
But it's not, you can't just say it's specifically the connection to LSU when they're signing athletes from other schools.
Yeah, but Raising Cane's is not. And again,
they are. They have Isaiah Spiller from A&M and Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma.
Yeah, and
neither of those guys have a connection to LSU. That's my point.
No, but they're both superstars. Myles Brennan can't be a superstar yet because he has not played, but he has this connection to LSU. He has all these followers for that reason. They've always been excited about him. It's always been about hope with Myles Brennan, but hope eventually needs to turn into results, and all this is under the assumption that will happen. But it's going to be interesting, Musa. You can't tell me it's not going to be an interesting situation if Max Johnson is announced as LSU's starting quarterback and you still see big murals and pictures of Myles Brennan by the Raising Cane's on Highland.
I mean, I don't see a problem with that at all. Like, I don't. This is a silly argument. Like, I don't see a problem with that at all.
Poll question, Casey. Is Myles Brennan's sponsorship with Raising Cane's in jeopardy if he does not win the LSU starting quarterback job? The people might support you. Let's make it a poll.
All right. I mean, I think it's a silly argument in general, but maybe that's just me. I mean, there's plenty of ways for it to work, and whether it be backup or starter or whatnot, they signed him for him. I mean that whether he's just, I don't know. I don't believe that. I just think that it's
And you still think Max will be the starter?
Yes.
Okay.
Because that's what my point is. That's not going to weigh any kind of decision at all. Is that we gotta let Miles start? He's sponsored by Raising Cane. Like that's not a thing. The guy's got almost 18,000 followers on Twitter. I haven't even looked at his Instagram. I mean, he's marketable because he's been a starting quarterback in the SEC, not just because it's been at LSU. I mean, there's that. I mean, who's to say and I hate doing the transfer thing because I don't want to speak on, I'm not him, so I can't say that, but there's places you can go where you're just as marketable as LSU that have Raising Canes and that have Smoothie Kings. It's not, that doesn't compute to me.
We'll see. We can agree to disagree, but Miles Brennan at another school, I do not think is as marketable as Miles Brennan at LSU. But that's what's so cool about all these conversations, Musso. There's so much change, but so much necessary change coming to college football. And there's so many ripple effects that we cannot even predict right now, both having to do with on the field and how potentially that will affect it and off the field. And I'm really interested to see where all this goes.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I don't know. We're going to come back. Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau won the match yesterday. That's all well and good. Actually, it sucks. But Aaron Rodgers did get asked about his situation with the Green Bay Packers, and that is most likely the way that conversation will dovetail. So come back with us. Final segment of hour number 2 here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Yo, Jake here for Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic, the place that's going to be convenient for you during an inconvenient time. Look, you hear me talk about my 4 boys all the time, and sometimes things like stitches, well, they happen. And in fact, they have. And Patient Plus is always taking care of us, just like they'll do the same for you. And now with 7 convenient locations across the Baton Rouge area, open from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And also at PatientPlusUC.com, you can sign up for your appointment on the way to the clinic. That's Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic. Get in and get better.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the diehard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million-mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com.
Coming up on Thursdays, Off the Bench. First-round pick Peyton Turner stops by for realsies this time. Plus, we preview NBA Finals Game 2 and Euro 2020 as the finals are set. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Final segment here of hour number 2. The match was yesterday. That's, of course, those. Man, I guess this is the third one now that they've had. Aaron Rodgers teamed with Bryson DeChambeau to take on Phil Mickelson and Tom Brady. Rodgers and DeChambeau defeated Mickelson and Brady yesterday. Aaron Rodgers actually with the putt that ended it. It's good, and it's for a good cause. They raised 6.3 million meals for Feeding America. 2.6 million went to My Brother's Keeper. They're mic'd up. It's a very loose environment. Guys ribbing each other. They bring on guests. I mean, Gronk was on there yesterday and said that Aaron Rodgers looked like he was out of shape, more out of shape than Gronk was in his retirement. Gronk did not know that Aaron Rodgers could hear him. He quickly found out that Aaron Rodgers could hear him. So it's fun banter like that, and it shows you a bit of a different side of these guys. I will say, as far as the result, if you have listened to me at all, you know that I hate Bryson DeChambeau and want him to lose every single event he plays, even if it is for charity. Raise all the money and all the meals for charity you want, but I want him to still lose.
So
I'm not happy about that.
That was my first thought. Do you think it's kind of disrespectful to put him and Phil Mickelson like in the same breath in the same league? Because I feel like they're not really on the same level. You're a much bigger golf guy than me, obviously.
No, of course they're not. Phil Mickelson's a Hall of Famer. Bryson is not a Hall of Famer yet, so of course not. But it's just it's fun. Mickelson and Brady make a really good team, and you see a much looser side of Tom Brady. But because these guys are constantly being talked to while they're on the course, even by the commentators, there's naturally going to be some questions asked. And if Aaron Rodgers is there, the questions are going to be about the Green Bay Packers. They did get around to asking him that, and this is what it sounded like.
You know, Aaron Rodgers, I see a bear out there. It leads me to a question. October 17th, Packers-Bears. Any idea who's going to be there? Anybody who's going to be quarterbacking in the number 12 jersey?
Yeah, I don't know, BA. We'll see.
How about,
won't we?
How about September 12th then? Will you go for that one?
What's that one?
That would be the opener against the Saints.
Oh.
All cheesers rejoice.
Yeah, I don't know, BA. We'll see.
Okay.
I know you're a Milwaukee guy.
What's that one? September. Like Aaron Rodgers doesn't know the opening date for the Green Bay Packers.
I've seen a little bit of Bryson DeChambeau and Aaron Rodgers lately, man. I can't even lie. And Aaron Rodgers agrees with me because I remember him making a comment recently when he was like, oh, Bryson DeChambeau, I can relate to him a lot. I feel like we're both really kind of misunderstood. We're both in similar points in our career. I think that just speaks more to Aaron Rodgers having a midlife crisis, and he's still really good at football, but that's why he's acting the way he is.
I think he's acting the way he is because I think he's really angry with the Green Bay Packers, and he's letting them know about it. To sit there and passively aggressive. How about September 12th, Aaron? Oh, What's that one? What's the opener against the Saints? He knows exactly what he's doing. I don't think he retires, but I still think it's a real possibility that Aaron Rodgers sits out a little bit of this season.
Yeah.
He might show back up a little later on, but I still think there's a possibility he sits out a little bit. There's a chance, I think, and maybe I'm just totally wrong here, that Aaron Rodgers doesn't play against the Saints.
I've been saying this forever. I think the best scenario for Green Bay would be to just bite the bullet and trade him. He seems to maybe still be holding out hope that would happen, but you're creating a scenario that's going to be really bad, what you just described, or maybe a Carson Palmer situation where he sits out an entire year and plays for another team, but it's not going well. It's not looking like he's going to play that game. So if I'm Green Bay, I would cut my losses. I would try to get at least something, which is going to make Gutenhurst look terrible. You just traded the NFL MVP, but unfortunately, I think it's kind of the lesser of two evils here.
Mario, they still haven't found the snake at the mall.
Oh, my goodness.
The thing is still on the loose.
She is friendly.
No, she's not.
Reportedly.
I don't care. No, it's not. There's a Twitter account now for Kara the Python. There are wanted posters all over Twitter for Kara the Python. They have no idea where this snake is. At what point do you start to think maybe it's actually not in the mall anymore and that it quite possibly escaped that too? Who knows?
Scary thought.
Taylor Sharp coming up with you next.
Taylor Sharp.
Hour number 3 of Middle Relief coming straight at you here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Middle Relief, and after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
Le posso offrire un caffè? Le posso offrire un caffè? Andiamo insieme da me, non c'è.
Call Mr. Electric today for electrical repairs, upgrades, and installations.
Introducing Vizzy Lemonade, the only lemonade hard seltzer with antioxidant vitamin C. All new Vizzy Lemonade. Step up your seltzer game.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew.
Your lawyers.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Right now, Roger Federer on the wrong side of a rout in the men's quarterfinals at Wimbledon. The 20-time major champion losing to Hubie Hurkacz 6-3, 7-6, 6-love. Aaron Rodgers still not tipping his hand about his future. Rodgers, when asked during the Match Golf charity event yesterday if he'd be the Packers quarterback when the season started, he sidestepped the question from TNT announcers twice. Rodgers' future remains a mystery, explains ESPN senior NFL reporter Jeremy Fowler.
Asking around the league, there's a sense and a belief that Green Bay, though still hopeful, is probably a little bit torn. They weren't necessarily expecting answers from Rodgers, but some people there still believe, hey, look, this guy is dug in, and he might not show up. Now, some are still hopeful that he will show up for training camp. There's no clear-cut answer, no matter who you ask.
Jeremy Fowler on Keyshawn, J. and Zubin. Packers GM Brian Gutekunst has said he has no plans to trade Rodgers, who reportedly wants out of Green Bay. Coming up in moments, ESPN TV and ESPN Plus. England, Denmark in the Euro 2020 semifinals. The winner meets Italy in Sunday's final.
Brought to you by Capital One Auto Navigator, where you can find a car, get pre-qualified instantly, and see your real monthly payment without impacting your credit score. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms and conditions apply. Find out more at CapitalOne.com/Auto Navigator.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
What's up, people? Welcome in to hour number 3 of Middle Relief, a Wednesday edition. Mario Jerez alongside Taylor Sharp, who's filling in for Jeremy Hill today. Casey Gaines on the audio board, and Danny Cardenas getting us on YouTube. Danny, you got to get me a beefier picture of Miles Brennan, man. You're still using the skinny one. That man deserves a lot more props for the work he's put in the weight room. Need to get beefier pictures of Miles Brennan. But besides that, Danny's doing an excellent job. Taylor, you've done an excellent job every time you've co-hosted with me. You've been on the show here before, all 3 hours last time you were here. And we did Sports Shorts together a couple weeks ago, filling in for Ronnie Ranch. Happy to have you on once again. How you doing, man?
Man, I'm good. Staying busy. Look, glad to be back. Anytime you ask me to be on, I'm jumping at it because it's a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. Get used to it. We're definitely going to have you back here on Middle Relief. And usually we do our daily countdown to kickoff segment here, which we will do momentarily. But there is a little bit of news concerning LSU football, specifically concerning the LSU Golden Band from Tigerland, because the band will not be traveling to UCLA for the season opener. This according to Jacques Doucet on Twitter, and this will be because of budget cuts due to COVID, but they will still be traveling to SEC games as normal, so they will be there for all the conference games. Unfortunately, not going to be there for the season opener, which has to be terrible for the band. I mean, everybody's looking forward to this trip that's affiliated with LSU in terms of fans, because that's a really cool environment. LSU has never played UCLA before. They never played in that stadium before, the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. And it's not a huge deal, I think, for the fans and for the people watching the game, but you do feel a lot for the Golden Band not getting this opportunity.
Yeah, you do. And this is something we're going to see not just across the SEC. I think this is going to be a nationwide deal. I mean, everyone talks about how profitable, LSU's football program is, but without that revenue this year, they released a number a few weeks back, and I think it was close to $81 million that this athletic department had lost, across last season. So, yeah, this is something that's probably going to be widespread, and I'm glad to hear that, for most of those SEC road games, they're probably going to travel to that, bowl games as well. It's just something you're going to have to deal with, and it's going to be across the country probably.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. $80 million, that is a lot. And if this is the biggest sacrifice you have to make, not bringing the band to just the first game, I don't think it's that big of a deal. But That being said, it would be cool if they had him at like some kind of local viewing party. I know that usually big numbers of the band don't travel to away games or non-conference games, but whatever portion of the band was going to be there should be at some kind of local viewing party or something, because they should be part of the experience. But my point is, I just hope that this is the last kind of COVID casualty that we have. And after this first game with the Golden Band not there, everything could be back to normal. The band could be at the SEC games, Tiger Stadium can be full, and we can finally have a traditional college football season again.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it perfectly. Small price to pay for, kind of a little, your one last thing dealing with COVID, because think about some of these smaller schools we heard about, January, February rolled around. They were cutting some of their smaller sports on campus. LSU is fortunate enough to, they're a big program. They're the flagship school of Louisiana, and they didn't have to do that. So, yeah, if the band's the only casualty you have as far as not getting to travel to an out-of-conference away game, then I say it's a success.
Won't be at UCLA, but the Golden Band from Tigerland will still be at every road SEC game. So, good for them. It is time for our daily countdown to kickoff segment, and there is a number 59 on LSU's roster this year, as we are 59 days away from LSU versus UCLA in the Rose Bowl, and he is a redshirt sophomore out of Pritchard, Alabama, Desmond Little. And you have a story to tell about Desmond Little's recruitment.
Yeah. You don't know the story about how Desmond Little got here to Baton Rouge, right?
Can't say I do.
All right, great story time. This is a guy that I have pulled for just so much, probably more than any other player on the roster. And here's why. As you mentioned, he's from Pritchard, Alabama. He was committed to the Crimson Tide, was going to sign with them on National Signing Day. What does Nick Saban do? Well, he over-recruits kids left and right. We see that all the time. Calls him up, says, hey, Desmond, we no longer have a spot for you on this team here, buddy. So Desmond Little's a guy without a home on signing day, and LSU ultimately got spurned by the great Ishmael Sopsher, and Coach O calls up Desmond Little and says, hey, man, a spot just opened up. You want to have a home here in Baton Rouge? And Little signed on instantly. I think that's a great story, and I've pulled for him, and I hope he continues his career here.
He came as a linebacker. From our research, I've seen that he's moved to defensive end, has mostly played special teams, but you can always contribute on special teams, and LSU kind of has a lot of depth at the defensive end position right now, but any depth is a good thing, and hopefully Pritchard can contribute to the team this year.
Yeah, I'm ready to see it. Desmond Little, he's I think he's about 6'6", that 240, 245 range. I mean, great height for that defensive end position, and you like those long guys off the edge. If he could put on a little bit more weight, he could maybe find a spot in the rotation somewhere.
We will see. Shout out to Desmond Little, number 59 on this year's LSU roster, and there is one more story of significance when it comes to LSU football and the number 59, and it doesn't really have as much to do with LSU football, but it has to do with a former LSU player. And there's also a twist that involves the New Orleans Saints in this, Taylor, because Terrace Marshall, former LSU wide receiver, the man that scored the dagger touchdown to win the championship against Clemson, was drafted number 59 by the Carolina Panthers, and he was that close to being a New Orleans Saint. The Saints had the 60th pick. They took Pete Werner, but it has come to light and reports, this is from a long time ago, but it hasn't been brought up in a while, but Carolina was going to draft a different player, an offensive lineman with the 59th pick. But as soon as they got word that the New Orleans Saints were going to draft Terrace Marshall with the 60th pick, they flipped course. They drafted Terrace Marshall with the 60th pick, and they still traded up in that same round to get their offensive lineman a couple picks later. But that's a crazy thought, because Terrace Marshall, as I said, was that close to becoming a New Orleans Saint. And think of all the storylines there. The Saints never draft LSU players. He would have been the highest LSU player drafted since Devery Henderson, which is ironic, right? Same position. And when you think of the Saints this year and kind of the holes that they have, those were kind of the two main holes going into the draft, wide receiver and linebacker. And I think Pete Werner was a really good, I don't want to say consolation prize, but he was a really good draft pick to fall back on, because the Saints are really thin there too. And a lot of people are expecting big things out of Pete Werner in his rookie year. But the prospect of Terrace Marshall lining up with Mike Thomas to usher in whoever the new Saints quarterback would be is interesting. And you have to consider the injury factors. He opted out of last season towards the end, which I thought was a really smart decision by him, but he fell in the draft, because for him to fall to number 60, a lot of people would think he'd be drafted a little bit higher than that. But it's a really interesting thought. The Saints were going to take Terrace Marshall, but as soon as Carolina got wind of that, they changed their strategy. They took Terrace Marshall themselves, and they still got their guy. So we had to acknowledge that as we're 59 days away from the season.
Well, look, I never thought I would say this, but congratulations to the Carolina Panthers. You got yourself a heck of a player. I thought he should have went significantly higher than what he did. I think Terrace Marshall's a first-round talent, big physical receiver. We saw what he ran in the 40. He was mid-4.4s. He's got that speed as well. How many 50-50 balls did Joe Burrow throw to him? Him and Jamar Chase both. And I know Chase kind of stole the spotlight, but look, Terrace Marshall's no slouch. We saw him do it when, really the first 5 games of last season. He was almost uncoverable on a team that didn't really have a lot of other weapons outside of him. Look, that would have been a smart move by the Saints. And you mentioned it, to have him and Thomas on the same team, lined up out wide, big, tall, physical receivers. It would have helped break in that new quarterback a lot smoother. But look, props to the Carolina Panthers. They made a great pick.
It's going to be interesting to see how he fits into that offense too, man, because, again, I thought him opting out was a smart decision by him in terms of health and hopefully ushering his way into a new environment in an NFL team. But Carolina already had a pretty solid offense last year, and that was without Christian McCaffrey playing. They were one of 2 NFL teams that had 2 1,000-yard receivers. The Kansas City Chiefs were the other team. So you have DJ Moore, you have Robbie Anderson, and similar to his role at LSU, he's going to be the third guy, that red zone threat, and that's a really scary thought if you ask me. Now, whenever we've broken down the Carolina Panthers here, I still don't really respect them as a player in the NFC South because I don't think they've addressed their defense enough. But to have Terrace Marshall on your team when you already had 2,000-yard receivers, when you have Joe Brady calling the plays, who has familiarity with Terrace Marshall, that has to pump you up if you're a Carolina fan. And I honestly don't know why they even thought about it. They should have taken him before they knew the Saints were going to.
Yeah, I agree. I think this, I'm with you. I think this Panthers offense has the potential to be really, really good. You mentioned Anderson and DJ Moore. With Marshall on this team, you could move DJ Moore into the slot. I think he's better suited there. He's a shorter, shiftier guy. He's an absolute burner. So I think that, with the big bodies of Marshall and Anderson going on the outside, that'll open things a little bit more for DJ Moore in space. And with McCaffrey coming back, you got to believe he's fully healthy. This team could be dangerous. It all depends on what Sam Darnold does. What Sam Darnold are we going to get? We saw flashes in New York. Was it the coaches? Was it him? We'll find out because, look, he's working with Matt Rule and Joe Brady. I mean, I don't think he could have better coaches right now. So, they'll get the absolute most out of Sam Darnold, I believe.
Should be interesting to see. Carolina Panthers draft Terrace Marshall 59 overall. LSU is 59 days away from kickoff between them and UCLA to open the season inside of the Rose Bowl. We'll come back and talk some NFL. We have some NFL news as a New England Patriot has requested a trade. When was the last time you heard that statement? We'll get into that and more here on Middle Relief with Mario Jerez and Taylor Sharp, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
We opened up the playbook and expanded our coverage. Listen daily in high definition on 98.1 HD2. We are 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
ServiceMaster Elite create clean, disinfected work environments. As a local business, we take pride in serving the New Orleans and Baton Rouge areas. Our cleaning protocols follow CDC and OSHA standards for healthcare settings, offices, senior living, restaurants, and industrial plants. Contact ServiceMaster Elite to get your operation ready for reopening with germ disinfection cleaning. ServiceMaster Elite, the trusted choice in professional cleaning since 1996.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
50 years ago on Easter Sunday, Breck's Baton Rouge Zoo proudly opened our doors, and we've been hopping ever since. 5 decades of connecting people with animals, teaching our community about the problems facing wildlife and how we can help, and working with zoos across the world to protect endangered species. Today, our future is taking flight by stretching the possibilities of what your zoo can become, while we keep it fun and affordable for everyone. Thanks for coming along.
Starting in 1974, Central Plumbing has served Baton Rouge and surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Through these tough and trying times, we want you to remember that the Payne family is here to continue to support and serve you. As a multi-generational business, there is no job that is too big or too small. Residential, commercial, industrial, hospitality, we're here for anything you need. 24/7, 365. Give us a call, 225-925-8552.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, Middle Relief, and after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. LSU has a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about Jason Kelly and Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap it. Join us Wednesday, 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You know, Taylor, the last segment on Off the Bench every day, as you know, we take questions, ask the bench, right? And some guy was asking a silly, non-sports question, and he was asking, are we living in a simulation? And my answer to him was, we might be, because right now the Suns and the Bucks are playing for the NBA Finals, and you have first-round draft picks requesting trades out of New England, not wanting to play for the New England Patriots. And the story I'm referencing is about N'Keal Harry, who was drafted 32nd overall back in the 2019 draft, but has only been targeted 86 times throughout 2 seasons in New England. This is somebody who had a really good career at Arizona State, one of the best wide receivers in the history of that program, but his agent recently released a statement and has said that for the past several months, I've been working in cooperation with the Patriots behind the scenes to put a plan in place to allow N'Keal to thrive in New England. Through 2 seasons, however, he has 86 targets, which obviously has not met the expectations for the Patriots and for N'Keal when they drafted a dominant downfield threat who was virtually unstoppable at the point of attack in college. And in his first season, he struggled with injuries, only played in 7 games, 12 passes for 105 yards in that time, although he did score 3 touchdowns in those 7 games, and I think that's pretty noticeable. And last season, playing with Cam Newton, pretty much a full season with Cam Newton, in 14 games, he had 33 catches, 309 yards. And again, this is somebody who I knew about in college, somebody who was really good out of Arizona State. And frankly, Taylor, I hate to go here, but he was somebody who was rising in fantasy football draft boards coming into this season. But obviously him and Cam Newton did not have very good rapport, and blame that on Cam if you want, blame it on Belichick, blame it on whoever. But it's clear that N'Keal Harry, feels that the Patriots are not utilizing him to the best of his abilities. And that's something to me is crazy to hear about the New England Patriots. And it just kind of shows how much times are changing.
Yeah, times are definitely changing. Look, Harry's a guy, like you mentioned, look, people were raving over him at the Combine. You know how big, physical, fast he was. He had a great career at Arizona State, like you mentioned, but he's a guy that, he's kind of dealt with a lot of injuries. I know he played 13 games last year, but only 7 the year before. He's been an injury problem so far, and I don't put last year entirely on him. I mean, I know he played 13 games, but I didn't think that offense was built for the kind of receiver Harry is. Harry's a downfield guy. He's not one of those short slant route type of guys, and that's kind of what they ran with Cam Newton last year. They had a lot of those design quarterback runs. And look, not necessarily Cam's fault. He didn't have the best year passing either, only 8 passing touchdowns, but
10 picks.
Yeah, the last 4 or 5 games of the year, a no-name by the name of Jacoby Myers was probably his number one target. And, when that's your number one guy, you have a severe problem at the wide receiver position. And I do think this is the right decision. I mean, I don't know. I typically don't like when players request trades, but for whatever reason, him and New England just haven't been able to mesh together so far.
Yeah, it's not a good fit. And when you look at their wide receiver depth chart, it's not like they have superstars. They added Nelson Aguilar recently and Kedrick Bourne both through free agency, and both of those guys are solid players. But you mentioned Jacoby Myers, and that was their leading receiver last year with 59 catches and 729 yards. But N'Keal Harry's agent could still make a pretty good case, I think, that he was really good in college. He struggled with injuries his first year, and then last year, for the same reasons you're saying, he just was not very efficient with Cam Newton and with New England. Now, the obvious angle here is, should the Saints have any interest? And right off the bat, I think that, yes, they should, but the asking price for a guy like N'Keal Harry might be a little bit high. I'm curious to see what New England would want for him, because he has not produced at all, but you definitely see the potential when you look at his college film and when you put into account the fact that New England, man, he played in Carolina for such a long time, that New England ran a kind of very specific, very intricate offense to try to highlight Cam Newton's strengths, which did not work out very well. As you said, 8 touchdown passes to go with 10 interceptions. They finished 7-9, but N'Keal Harry might be an intriguing case for some people. And if the asking price is right, I think the Saints would be interested.
Yeah, I agree. And it is all about that asking price. I mean, typically a younger guy who was drafted in the first round is going to require quite a bit of assets to acquire him. I don't look at that being the case this time. I think New England's probably done with him at this point as well. They're trying to get at least some return on their investment. He went 32nd, but I mean, if you could give up maybe a second rounder, third rounder to get him, I think it's maybe worth a shot at least. He's still got a lot of talent. He's a big physical guy, like we were talking about earlier, and he just needs a change of scenery. We've seen Sean Payton kind of revitalize a ton of players' careers, throughout, regardless of position, really. I mean, he's known for that quarterback spot, but, I mean, look what he's done with Malcolm Jenkins, I mean, he was a guy that, was getting older in his career. There wasn't a big market for him. Had a really good season last year. So I think Payton could maybe work a little magic with Harry, and yeah, if the price is right, I say take a shot, because behind Michael Thomas, you're awfully thin at that receiver position.
Yeah, that's been a really interesting conversation all offseason, Taylor, because the Saints wide receivers have had very kind of rare, very intricate flashes of potential. We brought up Deontay Harris as a guy that can really be utilized a lot better, specifically by having a quarterback who could just throw the ball a little bit farther. And Traquan Smith a little bit as well, but I think Deontay Harris had so many moments last year where he was wide open down the field behind the last line of defense. And they tried to hit that route a couple times with Taysom Hill, but he put so much air underneath his deep passes that it didn't really work out too well. So I think he'll look better by default. A guy like Traquan Smith might produce a little bit more, but I'm with you. It's still kind of a lot of question marks. And if you're able to make a move and get somebody like N'Keal Harry, I'd definitely pull the trigger. I don't know if I would give up a second or third round pick. I think at best I would give fourth, but there's a lot of intrigue here because they drafted him thinking that Tom Brady would be the quarterback. Tom Brady's last season was his rookie season, but he
was hurt
exactly
over half of.
He got hurt. You never really saw what he could do there. And then last year with Cam Newton, not just with the new system, but it being a COVID year, not having a traditional offseason. The more you kind of look at N'Keal Harry and his body of work, I think kind of the more intrigued you are to see if he can contribute on another team in another situation.
Yeah, I see that happening as well. Like we were talking about, maybe third round pick. I could see him giving up for him. Not much more beyond that. I think it's just New England's just not the place for him. I mean, because obviously he's a guy that is oozing with talent. I mean, you saw what he did at Arizona State, and you've seen flashes of it. I know he hasn't been targeted that much, but he's done a lot with those targets, and at least in my opinion. So, yeah, I think a change of scenery, a little bit different offense for him would do great for him. And look, you mentioned Deontay Harris. He's obviously a great talent. If only he was taller, if only he was N'Keal Harry's size, he'd be great. And Marquez Callaway, another guy, showed flashes a little bit last year. But, yeah, if you can get Harry in for a decent price, I say bring it in, give it a shot.
Shout out to Brian Fletcher for interacting in the chat. And you mentioned the size that should be taken into note when it comes to N'Keal Harry, 6'4" and 225 pounds. But Brian Fletcher says, Mario, Harry is 6'4", 225, and he won't catch a ball across the middle. He didn't do it with the GOAT Brady. He is soft. Just because you're good in the Pac-12 does not mean you will be good in the NFL. I agree with that logic 100%, but he did not play very much with Tom Brady, number one. And then last year, I didn't watch enough of the Patriots, honestly, to tell you whether or not he was being soft, not going over the middle, having alligator arms, which was a big criticism of Jimmy Graham when he was in New Orleans. But I think that's something that could be fixed too. I mean, he definitely needs to take advantage of his size, but he's also really fast. So if you put that with somebody who has really good vertical speed, you're looking at potentially a really, really good wide receiver. And yes, the Pac-12 is not the NFL, but playing for Sean Payton is not the same as playing for Josh McDaniels.
No, I agree. And I mentioned that earlier about him not being able to catch the ball across the middle as much as you would like. He's more of a downfield guy, but I think you're right. That's something that could maybe be fixed. Now, is he scared? I don't know. No one knows what's inside this guy's head, but you mentioned earlier the lack of an offseason and breaking in a brand new quarterback. Look, running across the middle in the NFL with 225-pound safeties coming at you that you can't see it's intimidating, and you got to have that trust factor with your quarterback. The fact that him and Cam didn't work a lot together in the offseason, you don't exactly know where that ball is going to be placed on you, and yeah, it can get to you a little bit. So, if he has a full offseason to work with a QB, develop some good chemistry, maybe he'll be a little bit more comfortable doing it.
N'Keal Harry wants out of New England. We'll see what suitors he has. We'll see what the Patriots do going forward. We are getting closer and closer to the NFL season, closer to college football season as well. 59 days away from LSU and UCLA inside of the Rose Bowl. We'll come back and talk a little bit of NBA before wrapping up the show with some Ask Us. This is Middle Relief with Mario Jerez and Taylor Sharp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Eli's always been into grilling. It took us a while to see it, but the signs were there.
What are you doing, Eli?
I knew grilling was my thing. I have been talking about it throughout my career.
Happy with the results?
I am. Got the new grill from barbecueguys.com. It performed great.
My advice, as I always told my boys,
do more of what you're born to do.
Barbecue Guys, for those who were born to grill.
You want cheese on your burger, Pops?
I'll take a little cheese.
To the heroes who are working tirelessly to care for our communities, we thank you. We will never forget the countless hours you dedicated on the front lines, choosing to risk your own health to fight for our friends, neighbors, and family members.
You guys are out on the front lines, fighting it.
We are grateful for your heroic acts and unwavering spirit. Together, we are overcoming this adversity and make our state healthier and more vibrant again. Auctioner Health.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Are you a licensed contractor? There's lots of good contractors in Louisiana doing work the right way, but unfortunately, too many unlicensed contractors are working outside the licensing requirements. Working as a contractor in Louisiana requires a license for the company doing the work. The Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractors wants to help you get licensed to allow you to conduct work legally. It's not difficult to get the license. We can help you. Go to lacontractor.org for more information. Licensed contractors, it's the law.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products. 756-2644. That's 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 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products. 756-2644. That's
All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the die-hard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Sunshine.
Coming up on Thursdays, Off the Bench. First round pick Peyton Turner stops by for realsies this time. Plus, we preview NBA Finals Game 2 and Euro 2020 as the finals are set. Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Man, I'm just like everybody else. I got those memories that come up on my phone and show you where you were like a year ago. Dooley, Abdul Nader came up to me in the locker room before the game. He was like, see, a year ago today, we left to go to the bubble. It's amazing to think all the things that's taken place since then. But I'm grateful for where I am now and happy to have this opportunity.
That is Chris Paul, Phoenix Suns guard, as he is competing in the NBA Finals for the first time in his 16-year career. And last night, he and his teammate Devin Booker became the third set of teammates to each score 25-plus points in their Finals debut since 1980. They joined the OKC Thunder's Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and the Orlando Magic's Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway back in 1995. That is pretty good company. Really good start for Chris Paul and Devin Booker both as they beat the Bucks last night, 118-105, 1-0 in the NBA Finals in favor of the Phoenix Suns. It was an entertaining game, Taylor, and it was a really good start for Phoenix.
Yeah, it was. Look, me and you were just talking during the break about how well coached this Phoenix Suns team is. I mean, their transition defense is probably the best I've seen in a long time. I mean, even on fast breaks, they don't allow a lot of easy baskets down low, and that's why Giannis struggled a little bit last night. I mean, look, he still got his points because he's Giannis, but he wasn't nearly as efficient as you would like him to be, and that's a credit to their defense. And look, you can't say enough good things about Chris Paul. I mean, 32 points, 9 assists, and he shot 12 for 19, 4 for 7 from the three-point line. I mean, he was incredible. He was the best player on the court last night, no question about it. And that's with guys like Giannis, Devin Booker, Chris Middleton. Chris Paul outperformed all of them. So, look, credit to those guys. And Monty Williams and company are really rolling right now. And, if they can play that way the rest of the series, I like them to win it.
Yeah, I mean, I still like the Bucks. I picked them on the show yesterday, as did Jeremy Hill. Musso's the only one that believes in the Phoenix Suns. But you're right. If Chris Paul plays like that, they're going to be really, really tough to beat. And I think he's moving around a lot better, man, than he was in the last series in the conference finals. And with him and Devin Booker both, they just have no answer for him. Coach Bud and Coach Charles Lee had to make some kind of adjustments because when I tell you they had no answer, the numbers support it. Chris Paul and Devin Booker both in isolation. That means when they're single covered, they're not blitzing the second defenders, just one-on-one, isolated, right? They were 12 for 19 shooting out of isolation, which is obnoxious. That's obnoxious efficiency, both from Devin Booker and from Chris Paul. And we've talked so much about what Chris Paul has done on the court, but it's incredible to see what he's gotten out of both DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, because Monty Williams deserves some credit there too. But I think Chris Paul specifically, with the direction that he's given to those two young guys, has made such a big difference. And those guys deserve a lot of credit too for kind of taking some tough love. That's been kind of the mantra with Chris Paul, that he's not afraid to get into it with his teammates and maybe ruffle some feathers. He's done that in the past with guys like Blake Griffin and James Harden, who did not accept that criticism. But Devin Booker has, and guys like Mikal Bridges have as well, DeAndre Ayton, who we also mentioned. And it's resulted in an NBA Finals run. I mean, they have a great combination of young talent that's emerging to go with one of the best point guards of all time. And it's all coming to fruition.
Yeah, look, how many years in a row were we watching NBA and saying, you know, when is Phoenix going to take that next step? They were just oozing with young talent. All they needed was a leader, that floor general, and they could not have picked a better one than the acquisition of Chris Paul. You mentioned the isolation basketball. Milwaukee's forced to place that isolation basketball because of the amount of wing shooters that they have on this team. I mean, look, I know Jay Crowder had a rough game. He only had 1 point last night. But
he was still plus 16 in the game.
He was, but he's a guy that can typically, you know, go up there and knock down those open threes. We've seen Mikal Bridges do it. He had a pair of them last night. Look, the way this team is playing with Paul running the show and facilitating the other guys, yeah, they really are hard to guard defensively.
I think the Suns are a great model for what the Pelicans are kind of trying to achieve. And I don't think they're going to go to the finals right away, but they could be just like one move away from being contenders, not just making the playoff, but hopefully contending in the playoff. Because very similar to Phoenix, they have a lot of young talent. They have a disgruntled superstar in Zion Williamson, which is exactly what Devin Booker was. His first 4 years there, the Suns averaged like 25 victories per season. And the veteran leadership that Chris Paul has brought, again, not just on the court with his facilitating, which he does better than most point guards in the history of the NBA, but just his veteran leadership, his knowing what to do when you're in the huddle late in games. Where did the Pelicans struggle? Late in games, in the huddle. And what I'm trying to build to and trying to say is if the Pelicans somehow, some way got a guy like Damian Lillard, he can have the same impact for the Pelicans.
Yeah, he could. You know, there's a lot of veteran guards out there that could potentially be available. Damian Lillard, none better than him, obviously. He would be a guy that, you know, would be perfect for finishing in the fourth quarter. How many game winners do we turn on ESPN and Damian Lillard's hitting a game winner? I mean, it seems like he's one of the most, he probably is the most clutch shooter in the NBA right now in terms of, I want that guy taking my game-winning shot. And look, in Paul's career, he really hasn't been that guy, but you saw last night he was taking those shots late in games. Really, Booker was deferring to Paul, which earlier in the year was kind of the other way around. They were letting Devin Booker kind of carry that load offensively, but they're relying, like you said, on his leadership and his experience in the postseason. And look, it's working for him.
It is working for him. It was not working very well for another former New Orleans player last night, and that's Drew Holiday, who had 10 points for the Bucks in the loss, but he was 4 of 14 from the field. And a lot of criticism from Bucks fans specifically for Drew Holiday last night after there was a lot of praise for Drew and doing what he did and closing out the Eastern Conference Finals. But he looked like bad Drew Holiday. And Pelicans fans know how to differentiate between good Drew Holiday and bad Drew Holiday. And he seemed to try to be doing a little bit too much on the offensive end last night, not really trusting the ball movement, trying to put it upon himself too much. And that reflected in the box scores. He goes 10 points, 4 out of 14 shooting. But for me, it's not so much about the offense with Milwaukee. Drew definitely is going to need to step up. He was awful last night. He has to do a better job of picking his spots. But again, they need to make some adjustments on defense. I'll write out the stats. Right now, there's just no answer for Devin Booker or for CP3. And if they don't remedy that, this series is going to be over pretty fast. But we'll see. That's why it's a 7-game series, man.
Yeah, and you know, it's so weird. That should show you how efficient the Suns really are. You got a backcourt that consists of Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. Those guys are known for their defense, you know, especially Drew Holiday. We saw what he did here, how good of a two-way player he was. He's struggling defensively, and you mentioned his offensive struggles. I will say this, though. He contributed in a lot of other ways last night. He had 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and I think that's what he kind of needs to do in Game 2, be more of that facilitator. You mentioned how he tried to put it too much on himself. I thought that as well. He has all-star caliber players. I mean, you got Giannis Antetokounmpo, you got Chris Middleton out there. get the ball to him. I mean, because both of those guys had pretty good games. Giannis had 20 points, Chris Middleton 29. So, you don't have to put it all on yourselves. Be that guy out there, be that distributor, that floor general, and I look for Holiday to bounce back game 2.
He needs to if the Bucks are going to have any opportunity. And I did want to ask you about Stan Van Gundy's comments recently, because I'm sure you've been keeping up. He's been making these appearances on the Le Batard show, and it's clear, it remains clear that there were always philosophical differences between David Griffin and Stan Van Gundy, but he kind of changed his tone here and kind of specifically revealed what those differences were. And he pretty much implied that that David Griffin cares way too much about off-court stuff, building relationships, keeping players happy, building a family atmosphere. And Stan Van Gundy is just worried about what's going on the court, wins and losses, X's and O's. And I kind of get what Stan Van Gundy's saying. His job is to be a coach, to devise the X's and O's. But I also think he's at fault a little bit, because being the head coach of an NBA team in 2021 involves things like building relationships, building a family atmosphere. That very much did not exist, and I think that's very much a reason why Stan Van Gundy is no longer Pelicans head coach. The X's and O's are important too, but I think you're a little naive if you're not taking into account the relationship building of it.
You are. I think you need to find a perfect middle ground, really, between those two. You mentioned, you're right, his ultimate job is to be that X's and O's guys, but how often do we see those guys that have that close relationship with their coaches carry over to success on the field? I mean, I know they had a bad ending, but how long were Bill Belichick and Tom Brady together? I mean, they had to have some sort of relationship off the field in order for it to carry over and work that many years. Tim Duncan, Greg Popovich, another prime example. I mean, those two guys were as tight as you could be. And yeah, you're right. This day and age, it is important, almost equally as important as building that off-the-court relationship, to have it translate on the court. And we heard about it. Zion's disgruntled. We heard Brandon Ingram didn't get along with Stan Van Gundy. Well, that's why you got to build those relationships off the court. You can improve it, and everyone's happy. And you're right, that was ultimately his downfall and why he's no longer the head man.
Yeah, and you could argue that the players are being babies, the players are being unreasonable, and a lot of people are saying that, but unfortunately that's just the climate of the NBA. I mean, we saw it with even Kawhi Leonard and his Uncle Dennis. We saw it with Anthony Davis and his father. We've seen it time and time again, and it's really tough. We talked about it on OTB this morning, right? Alvin Gentry was to one extreme. He was too lenient. He was a player's coach. They were terrible on defense. So they went and got the strict, rigid disciplinarian that's going to crack the whip, that's going to get them to play defense, but it was too much to the other extreme. So you can't have somebody that's too much of a jerk in the player's eyes and too demanding, but you can't have a pushover, frankly, like Alvin Gentry. It's the fallacy of the three bears, right? You have one that's too hot, you have one that's too cold, and then the little bear is just right. And the Pelicans are trying to get as close to just right as they can.
Yeah, that was an interesting analogy, but no, you're right. It was perfect. I thought you worded that perfectly, and you're right about everything you said in terms of building those relationships once again, and you were talking about Zion and all of those guys being a little bit disgruntled, getting that better relationship. You need a guy that has a perfect middle ground of the two. You want that X's and O's guys, but at the same time, you mentioned Gentry being the pushover, Van Gundy being kind of the hard nose. You need a guy in the middle. Do we know who that guy is off the bat? No. Now we've heard names, become finalists, and I'm sure David Griffin and those guys have a lot more, inside information than we do.
But doesn't that make you more interested in Fred Vinson potentially? Because Fred Vinson does not have experience, but I've been making the point that he's seen all the mistakes of all the coaches in the Pelicans the last 10 years. He saw what did not work with Monty Williams, who's doing really good now. He saw what did not work with Alvin Gentry, and most recently, Fred Vinson worked with Stan Van Gundy and saw what didn't work there. So what other candidate has experience directly with this team and has had a first-row seat to see exactly what has gone wrong, to see how Stan Van Gundy hasn't built those relationships? Because nobody can answer that really besides him or besides the players. But Fred Vinson is right there. He might have an idea. He might build those relationships better, and that's why I'm starting to think he might be the best candidate to be the head coach.
No, you're right, because he's seen it firsthand. He's seen what those guys did and how it didn't work. And don't think he's taking notes, because, he wants to be a head coach in the NBA someday for sure. I seriously doubt that, he just wants to be an assistant coach forever. So, look, he's taking those notes. He sees what's going on, like you mentioned. And he also seems like a guy that would be kind of a lower ego guy. And look, everybody's like, well, are the players whining? Are they being jerks? Like it or not, the players run this league. That's a fact. Not only are they more important to on-the-court issues, they also get paid more. So you have a lot more invested into these players. Vincent's a guy that, could relate to those players more on a personal level, kind of take a back seat and and really see what the players' issues are and kind of work more with them and instead of trying to be their boss, so to say.
Pelicans hoping to find a head coach, hoping to do it before the NBA draft coming up July 26th. As far as the finals go, the Suns lead it 1-0. Game 2 tomorrow night in Phoenix at 8 o'clock Central Time. We'll come back and wrap up the show with a little bit of Ask Us. It's usually with former LSU running back Jeremy Hill. We have Taylor Sharp today, who's a former Walker High School quarterback. So still got a little angle there. Ask us any questions about sports or about life in the YouTube chat. We'll answer them coming up next here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Our listeners fire up their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
At All-Star Toyota, you get it all. If you're in the market for an all-new Toyota vehicle, come see our friendly and knowledgeable sales team at All-Star Toyota. Located in Baton Rouge at the corner of Airline and Goodwood, we've been serving our community since 2005 by offering a large selection of new Toyota cars, trucks, and SUVs. Get behind the wheel of your dream car and take a test drive at All-Star Toyota today.
Yo, Jake here for Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic, the place that's going to be convenient for you during an inconvenient time. Look, you hear me talk about my 4 boys all the time, and sometimes things like stitches, well, they happen. And in fact, they have. And Patient Plus is always taking care of us, just like they'll do the same for you. And now with 7 convenient locations across the Baton Rouge area, open from 9 a.m. until 9 p.m., 7 days a week. And also at patientplusuc.com, you can sign up for your appointment on the way to the clinic. That's Patient Plus Urgent Care Clinic. Get in and get better.
Sports wouldn't be the same without the die-hard fans. That's why we're highlighting the fans that do the most. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge brings you the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week. Check it out at 1045ESPN.com, the Citizens Bank Fan of the Week.
This isn't just another day. It's so much more. Kelly's life was put on hold when her auctioneer primary care doctor discovered a rare blood disorder. Her doctor connected her to an auctioneer care team of cancer, heart, and kidney specialists. With multiple primary care locations around Baton Rouge, same-day appointments, and online scheduling, we're relentless about keeping you healthy. Auctioneer Baton Rouge, innovating healthcare for Kelly.
It's no secret. The best oysters in Baton Rouge are at Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar. Enjoy mouth-watering South Louisiana flavor and oysters from all over the country. And don't forget our nightly drink specials. Jolie Pearl Oyster Bar, located in downtown Baton Rouge.
If you're in an accident, a car accident, a slip and fall where you're injured, you need to call an attorney. The defendant insurance company, it's their goal to close the case as quickly as possible and pay out the least amount of money as possible. That's why it's important to call an attorney and call the law office of O.C. Brown.
At the law office of O.C. Brown, we're a family-owned firm. We want to be your law firm for a lifetime.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. And with Bayou to You, free delivery right to your door. Need repair? Our service department is ready and available to help you today. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR presented by Pluckers. LSU has a new pitching coach. We'll tell you all about Jason Kelly and Game 1 of the NBA Finals. We'll recap it. Join us Wednesday, 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Middle Relief with Mario and Musso on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wrapping things up here on Middle Relief. We are almost to the weekend, wrapping up a Wednesday edition here with Taylor Sharp, Mario Jerez alongside Taylor and Casey and Daniel Cardenas. Stay tuned for After Further Review with Matt Moscona coming up in about 10 minutes. Before we get to Ask Us, Daniel Cardenas has an update on our Citizens Bank poll. Mike 6, Casey. There you go. Mike 5, Casey. Try again.
Okay. If a player loses their starting job, are their NIL deals in jeopardy? 51% no, said no, and 49% said yes.
Okay. So it's pretty split.
Yeah, I don't have an answer to that. 50-50 sounds right to me.
Okay. Interesting to see. We will see if losing starting spots for college football players results in losing NIL deals. But just like a lot of things when it comes to NIL, that's not something we're going to know for a while. But lots of ripple effects will come from the new name, image, and likeness laws. All right, let's get to Ask Us in the YouTube chat. First question comes from Brian, who says it's National Dive Bar Day. Do you have a favorite dive bar?
As far as locally, always been a big fan of George's, but favorite dive bar ever, anything in Nashville. I mean, they got Broadway. I'd say Nudi's Bar in Nashville. That's probably my favorite.
Nudi's. Interesting.
It is not what you think. It's Noodies.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
Danny, since your mic is on, what do you like about Mo Bar and Lounge?
Oh, that's actually a Miami bar.
Okay, tell us about it.
I just really enjoy the drinks they make and the company that's there.
That's not the bar that Pitbull owns, right? Like the Cuban themed one on South Beach?
No, that's not.
Okay, that is not a dive bar, I don't think, but that is an awesome place. Check that out and check out Mo Bar and Lounge if you're ever in Miami. Craig Schilling with a good one, asking Taylor, are you scared of Kara the Python as much as you are of getting a Twitter?
First off, I'm not scared of getting a Twitter. I choose to stay away from it. As far as am I scared of Kara the Python? I'm a grown man. No, I'm not scared of the snake. However, am I going to go actively search for the 12-foot python? No, I'm not.
The snake, from everybody who seems to know what's going down, doesn't seem venomous, doesn't seem dangerous, but it's still a very big and scary snake. I don't blame people at all for avoiding it. I know my mother's listening right now, and she absolutely despises snakes, like anything that has to do with them.
Oh, is that Kara?
That, I believe so. Is that Kara, Danny? It is Kara.
Yeah, they say she's friendly. I don't want a friendly snake. I don't want a snake interacting with me. I want a snake that is scared of me and that will run away.
She does not look very friendly, but apparently she is. So hopefully they catch Kara really, really soon. The next question comes from Curdside Mamu, who asks, how would one get into radio? That's an interesting question. I mean, radio, specifically this format, might be a little bit tougher to get into. I mean, you have to have a degree in broadcasting in most cases to get an on-air job like this. You have to know the people at the station. But in this day and age, honestly, Curbside Mamu, instead of trying to get into radio, if you're trying to get into sportscasting, which I think is the angle that you're going here, start your own thing. You can start your own podcast. There are so many ways that you can get involved. And if you do that, you might get on the radar for one of these radio stations. That's what you want to do. So that's my advice to you. I remember Matt Moscona gave it to me a long, long time ago. And he said, just do something, just put content out there. And that's how you start doing that.
Yeah, and I can tell you from my experiences, say yes to any opportunity you get. Nothing, you're not too good for any position in this industry. Take it.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Hashtag Ask Us from Craig Schilling, National Strawberry Sundae Day. Man, there's so many national days, and Craig knows all of them. Shout out to him. Any way else that you like to eat your strawberries?
Obviously, chocolate-covered strawberries. I mean, come on, give me a break. That's got to be top, right?
I think so. Somebody in here was asking me about Wimbledon the other day and if I'm going to watch it. And I said, no, I probably won't watch. But I've always wanted to go to Wimbledon and try the strawberries and cream. Because
strawberry shortcake.
Strawberry
That's shortcake. My final answer.
Okay. Yeah, but no, the strawberries and cream at Wimbledon look amazing. I would like to eat them. Staying with food, Brian asks, hashtag Ask Us, your favorite kind of macaroni dish.
Macaroni and cheese, obviously. Look, Stouffer's mac and cheese. Don't go to any of these restaurants. Stouffer's frozen mac and cheese. You can get at any grocery store. That's the best.
Hashtag Ask Us from James. Did the Bucks have a bad game shooting, or can they just not shoot?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, Giannis struggles from the outside, but Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday are certainly better than they are. So I think it's a combination.
Yeah, Brook Lopez can light it up, man. Eventually, I feel like he's going to get his three-point shot going again, and that's going to be big for Milwaukee if he does. Hashtag Ask Us from Brian. Your favorite kind of macaroni dish?
Mac and cheese.
I'm trying to think of any other macaroni dishes. What's that, Danny?
I said baked macaroni's pretty good. I don't know if y'all try that.
Okay, baked macaroni, long noodles. Yes. A little inside OTB joke there. Hashtag Ask Us coming from Nookie. This is for you, Taylor. Is co-hosting Sports Shorts the high watermark on your resume?
I don't know if it's the high water mark. I tell you what, it was certainly fun. I enjoyed being on location.
It was a lot of fun. Next time we had the bowl, man. You were saying you were pretty good at bowling?
Oh, no, I was saying I was pretty bad at bowling.
Okay, that's what you were saying. Either way, I'd like to bowl with you and kick your butt. Hashtag Ask the Relievers. Which dive bar will Danny take Rhonda to for National Dive Bar Day?
That's obviously a question for Danny.
Probably the one in Miami that he mentioned. That seemed like a really cool...
What was it, Moe's?
Yeah.
Something like that.
No bar and lounge.
Okay, yeah. Check out that place. That will pretty much do it for our show today, unless I can find another question, which I cannot. So stay tuned for After Further Review with Matt Moscona coming up in about 5 minutes. I'll be back tomorrow with Matt Musso from 12 to 2 p.m. and Jeremy Hill from 2 to 3. Taylor, thank you so much for your time and for your contribution. We will see you next time here on Middle Relief, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.